All right, and settings. Hello. Hello, someone's already here. I'm a little bit disorganized. I haven't quite set up a little tripod, so just give me a moment while I get that sorted so that we can have things looking a bit better. Hey. Oh my god, I'm always like such a mess after bonsai, and yesterday I was carrying some heavier stuff. So I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it in my arm muscles and a little bit. Oh yeah, definitely those upper arms. Holy crap. Oh my gosh. So it's when I lift heavy things, it's always a little bit harder. Sorry, hang on, let me just. When I'm lifting heavy things, it's always a little bit harder for me to hey Charles, okay, see you in half an hour. Yeah, no. Lifting what? I feel like I get like a little bit of an odd sort of headache as my body tries to, hang on, there you go, as my body tries to sort of recover from lifting things. Yeah. So I'm a little bit disorganized, just trying to get my camera. Hey, and Hopi is spinning in circles chasing his tail. I know I've invaded his space with his nice warm sunny spots, but whatever. Okay, I think we're good. I suppose I could have taken a Panadol for the headache, but it's not that bad, so I'm just gonna see how I go, see how long I last. But yeah, hello. Hope you know I'm talking to the camera, there's no one here. Alright, so hey, look, different jumper. This is one of those jumpers, if you saw my punk rave video with the hood, like this is one of those jumpers that has a tiny hood, and I'm just like, it's too small. At least it's not pulling too much, but when I sort of, you know, try and sit up straighter, it does feel like it's pulling a bit there. I don't know how noticeable that is, but I think this is probably the first time I've actually worn this one. It's one I got from Japan. You know, nuclear weapon, but with like a weird approximation of a biohazard sign. And I don't know if whoever designed this realizes that biohazard and nuclear symbols are different, but whatever. It's kind of cute, some of the Japanese stuff that you get where there's that kind of a misunderstanding. But yeah, no, my purple jumper is, oh look, it's got this little reflecty bit. But my usual purple jumper, God, I got that from Uniqlo like ages ago, before Uniqlo was even in Australia. That purple jumper's in the wash. So I just did like 5 Wednesdays in a row of bonsai. And then next week I've got the week off. So I thought, hey, better chuck all my bonsai gear in the wash. So purple jumper I was wearing, because like you need layers, it's so cold there. Yeah, chuck that in the wash. So now I thought, hey, I'll wear a different jumper while I'm live streaming. So first time wearing this. Anyway, so introductory ramble. Oh my god. But I think I'm sort of settled, sort of awake. And yeah, alright, so what's been happening? I actually took some notes so that I remember what's happening, because yeah, after I do bonsai, and especially when I'm lifting stuff, hey Danny, after I've had a shift like that, yeah, tired, muscles sore. I think just like lifting, I'm too small for lifting, but it's part of what we got to do. There was like one massive bonsai brought in by a customer, and the way they put it together is just, it was so odd. But it was this huge pot, and you know, my boss was like, you wouldn't be able to lift that on your own just because of the size of it, so I had to help him carry that. And it was like just within what I could do for that distance. So yeah, I kind of maxed out on the lifting, but you know, I should exercise more. I should try see if my brother has some, are those weights over there? I think those are mum's little weights. I should be doing like lifting stuff. But I think I need a few days to recover. So yeah, this week, so yeah, actually after the live stream, pretty much like I think while I was live streaming, Punk Rave Australia finally released that video, so I was able to load that up, you know, put that up publicly. That's that distressed gothic hood. So if you haven't seen that, that's out now. Yeah, that's a fun one. I have worn it out and about with my I wore it when I went with my friend to Dark Phoenix, just on the outside of everything. It's pretty fun. I've also got another Punk Rave video that I filmed. Oh my god, I'm losing track of time. Did I film that this week or the week before? I don't even remember anymore. Might have been this week. No, it was the week before. and I've worn that out a bit. But I don't know when they're going to release it because they sent me 2 sets of stuff so close together. They're going to hold it back. I think it might come out this weekend because that's what I suggested to them. But if one of the other reviewers gets in first and uploads something, it'll probably be their video instead. So my next punk rave video, I don't know. We'll see. Oh yeah. I started writing a new song finally. So I think I did that on Saturday. I started writing a new song. First, like, I don't know, did I mention before I had tried to sit down and write some music and I just kind of played with synths and drum kits separately and like no inspiration, nothing happened, I just got frustrated. But this time I actually sat down to write a song and I did it the same method as my asexuality EP, where I find a song where I kind of like the vibe and then like analyze the crap out of it and then start taking bits that I like and putting it together that way and then changing things and whatever. So I started doing that. If you're on my Patreon, there'll be a clip that I released sometime during the week, I don't remember, but it's up there if you want to have a listen. I think it was only about 30 to 40 seconds long, I don't know, but it's basically a verse and a chorus, just the instrumentals. I haven't, so to update for anyone on Patreon who was reading about that, to update, I haven't done anything since Saturday because it's just like life keeps getting in the way and I keep doing other things, getting distracted. But I still have some ideas for like how to write vocals for the verse. So I'm thinking growls for that. And then for the chorus, I'm thinking like mixed head voice kinds of singing, so trying to make it less aggressive. I'm trying to make it a real sort of schizophrenic, split personality kind of vibe where I'm using 2 completely different voices. But I need to test it out, so that, I don't know, do I have the house to myself tomorrow? It would be easier if I have the house to myself so I can just make random noises and embarrass myself. But otherwise, I don't know, maybe I would try and work on it over the weekend. I was hoping I'd get more so I could finish the basics of it by the end of the month, but I don't think that's going to happen. And I still haven't done any art for this month, so gotta try that. I did buy some more acrylic pens because, is that acrylic markers? Because they're on special at the moment, or it was like a buy 3 get 1 free deal. So yeah, maybe I should play with them if I get some time. Maybe I can do that later today, just sort of doodle while I'm watching something, I don't know. Yeah, it's been hard this month because I've been working so much, so it's like taking those extra days out and then trying to get on top of all these videos and so on. But yeah, so song in the works. The ultimate goal I'm thinking for the moment is if I can finish it and if I can rehearse it and if I can get to just enough fitness to pull off a 20-minute set, because yeah, I've gotten that unfit, I might try and perform at Chicks with Pics in August. I've got to like email them and make sure there's a spot for me and all that, but I'm not confident yet. So if I can go to Chicks with Pics in August, I think that's like 2 or 3 days after my birthday, so I can have that as like my birthday party instead of having to organize anything, because I'm not really a party kind of person, but if I can gig, I like gigging. So if I can say, hey, this is basically my birthday thing, people come. To me, that works better as a birthday thing than actually trying to organize anything, because, yeah, I don't know, socially, I'm a bit weird. If I did have a thing, it'd probably just be a family thing, but because I'm going to be turning 31 this year, it's like, what's the big deal? Whereas last year I was turning 30, so it's like, hey, so for some reason we celebrate this more than other birthdays. Yeah, so that's something to organize. What's going on? I've been mucking around on Instagram, and I finally made it over 400 followers and a bit over that too. So I've basically, since I started focusing more on Instagram and learning how to find people on it, I've doubled my following. So I guess the first 200 or so is mainly Facebook friends and whatever, and a few randoms, and then the rest is from playing with the way Instagram works. So that's been interesting. I don't know, I'm still a little bit iffy about whether it's like a good following. It's definitely a stable following. It's not like the follow and follow people, but I don't know. I've had some direct messages from people, but a lot of them sort of peter out, and then some of them are quite weird. Like there's the guys who just send like endless love hearts, and you're like, how am I supposed to have a conversation with this? There's a few weirdos where I'm like, yeah, I don't want to talk to you. And then there's others where the problem is just the language barrier. And so I'm actually accidentally learning a bit of Spanish because, I'm trying to understand what they're saying, and I keep saying the same words. And so I put it into Google Translate. I probably should have checked how it's pronounced, because I know how it's written, but I don't know how you're supposed to say it. But yeah, no, so I'm accidentally learning a bit of Spanish because of Instagram, so that's interesting. I probably only remember one word at the moment, but sort of, yeah, that's kind of fun. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't put enough time into making pictures, because like taking too many photos of myself and figuring out how to present them in an Instagram friendly format, it's too much, takes too much time and energy, and sometimes I just can't be bothered. I'm not good with this kind of stuff. But it's been an interesting experiment to try and play with the whole Instagram whatever. So yeah, doubled my following, doing my own method and not any of the methods that I've heard from those gurus and stuff. Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff that the gurus say that I've done, but in terms of what's actually helping my count go up and helping me find more people, it is my own strategy. But yeah, I don't know. I haven't decided if it's like attracting the right people yet. So whether it's a good strategy apart from just increasing numbers, I haven't decided yet. So yeah, that's the thing. I got listed on Encyclopedia Metallum, the metal archives, this week. That's exciting. So for heavy metal, I don't know who runs it because I've never paid that much attention. But there's this like Encyclopedia of Metal kind of website, and they're incredibly elitist and very specific about what types of music they'll accept. Like, I'm not very good at the difference between metal and hardcore. To me, it's all distorted guitars, interesting rhythms. With hardcore, I tend not to like the vocals because of the screaming style a lot of them use. I don't know what it is. Sometimes it just sounds like sometimes it sounds unhealthy, and I sort of go, and I feel like my own voice is dying when I listen to it. And then sometimes it's just a little bit too whiny, and some of the lyrics I just can't relate to. So I think that's my main problem with hardcore, but the music itself I think is really cool. So there's some hardcore bands that I think vocally I can get into, but on the whole, the ones that I keep coming across, not so much. But anyway, tangent. So hardcore for some reason isn't metal enough for the Metal Archives website. I think maybe that's because it's based in punk, but I've never paid much attention to what actually are the differences. To me, I hear like interesting rhythms and distorted guitars, and that's enough for me to be metal enough, so you confuse it with all kinds of stuff. But yeah, no, anyway, those guys are heaps specific about what they'll accept, and I finally got in. And the reason I got in is because, I don't know if I mentioned, I did guest vocals for a band called Fireland. I'm on track 3 of their 4th album. Yeah, that's cool. I don't know where I've linked that, but if you look for Fireland on Bandcamp, you'll probably find it. I think the album's like Forged in Flames or Forged in Fire. I really should have remembered that. But anyway, Fireland. So that's like a sort of international project. So I think David, who does the main vocals, is in America, I think, and Steve, who does like the guitars, and does he do everything? I'm not sure. I feel like he either does everything or he's in charge of everything else, and I think he does like the mixing as well, maybe. Yeah, he's in the UK. So now I've got UK, America, and Australia. Yeah, I've got a couple of small bits in the 3rd track, which is called Banished. And that was fun. I had to push myself in terms of singing, because usually to sing that high, I would just default to my mixed head voice kind of thing, that soft stuff. But in the past year, I've actually started to find it easier to sing in chest voice. I don't know what it is. Like, it's been a while since I've seen my last teacher, and she was trying to help me out with the chest voice. And I think just like because she pointed out that so and so in this specific song I was singing was actually using chest voice, I was like, oh, chest voice is possible up that high. And I think that was enough to keep me working on it over the past few years since I've seen her. And then all of a sudden in the past year it just started to click, and now I can sing a lot higher in that chest voice. And sort of belt a bit more. I mean, belt, what is belting? The singing teachers all have different definitions, but in belting in chest voice, I can do a lot better now, all of a sudden, and I don't know why, but I did hear a long time ago someone saying that as a female, your voice doesn't mature until you're about 30, and I'm 30, so maybe my voice is finally figuring its shit out. And I mean, it doesn't help that I came to singing late and had all that metal in my mouth for like 6 years. But yeah, no, making progress on that. Anyway, so with this track, pushed me to sort of like around about the edge of my chest voice stuff, and then I managed to get a little bit of a grit on the end of one note, which is one high note, which was kind of fun. So thank you to the guys for inviting me onto the Fireland album. That was an interesting experience, and I got in the Metal Archive, so yay, because it's more of a power metal, you know, sort of classic power metal kind of thing, so it's metal enough for the Metal Archives. What else is going on? Oh yeah, the video uploaded this week, 7 Facebook tips. Originally I was considering doing a Destroyer video, but I've got a family thing on Sunday, so I was like, maybe I should hold off until afterwards, just in case anyone does stumble onto it and I get awkward questions. It's probably better like after that, then I can start making those videos, and then by the time we have our next family gathering, chances are those videos will be buried well down under a bunch of other videos and everyone will have forgotten about it. So that's that. But anyway, so the 7 Facebook tips. I think I made a mistake in that video saying that the band that said, hey, is anyone seeing our post, was currently crowdfunding. I think when I talked to them, they were crowdfunding, but that actually finished a couple weeks ago. I don't remember. Anyway, so they finished crowdfunding, but that's like minor inaccuracy. Anyway, yeah, no, I had that one sitting around for a while. I did have a sort of request from a friend on Facebook saying, you should do like the normal musician version and then like the metal musician version and just do the entire thing in growls. The thing is, now that I've made the video and it was like 20 minutes long, I don't think I want to do 20 minutes of talking growls. I think that'd be a little bit crazy and not at all listenable. So yeah, anyway, that's I've turned into a video and also article. So if anyone wants Facebook tips to help promote their bands, those are some easy things to do, or at least the first few I think were pretty easy. But it's tough because sometimes your bandmates don't really want to do stuff. I had, in my 2 proper bands, I mean with the first band, with the guys were really good with like music and then also being okay with me being a chick and, you know, really encouraging. Apart from, I think the drummer didn't really like me, but I think part of the reason he didn't like me is because when it came to gigging, no one else wanted to do anything, so I had to do all the management and promotion and like most of the promotion and all that, and maybe he resented me taking control, but if I hadn't, would we have gone anywhere? I don't know. Would we have gotten any gigs, or would it have been the same thing of just endlessly rehearsing until the band peters out? I don't know. Anyway, rant aside, I don't know. I mean, I thought he was alright, but some of the attitude I got back made me think maybe he doesn't like me. Anyway, what was that? So that was a little bit harder to promote just because it was mainly me, but you do need as much as possible. If your band's serious about promoting, you kind of do need everyone on board. With Rainbow Death Ray, the girls were really good. I think only our first guitarist was sometimes reluctant to help us out. But yeah, no, it's so much easier when everyone's on board trying to promote the band. We did so much better with Rainbow Death Ray. Yeah, and then there's some stuff I learned since Rainbow Death Ray that we didn't do back then that I included on the list. Yeah, so stuff I've learned about that. And you know, when that band who was trying to crowdfund made their post, I just like, I couldn't help myself. I put so much, for 1,000 words into telling them the things that they're not doing that they probably should be doing. I thought, hey, let's turn that into a post and let's turn that into a video. And so I've probably got some other stuff, like I mentioned in it, I got the 10 most annoying things people do on Facebook with like friend related stuff. I might turn that into a video, but it's less exciting, I think. because it's not really, well, I feel like it's not going to help anyone because the kinds of people who do these annoying things probably don't watch videos about how not to be a jerk on Facebook. So, whether or not that's worth it. Although I suppose people who've suffered at the hands of these annoying people, it might just be fun to be like, hey, this is relatable. I don't know. I've still also got my Tokyo shopping guide that I was going to turn into a series of blogs and videos, but I just haven't got around to it. And yeah, I don't know. It's sometimes hard when I've got an idea for a video to actually get around to it. I think like the reason I got around to this one was just because I was like, I have no ideas. The thing I want to make a video about, I probably got to wait on. So let's grab a thing and do it. And, because it's relevant to this year, I probably needed to do it this year. I suppose the Tokyo shopping guide is going out of date the longer I leave it, but it took me a year to finally get around to finishing it and uploading it to Patreon. So, now it's a year plus 5 months. So I kind of feel like, well, it's already heaps late, whereas this 7 tips thing is only a month after I wrote it. So hey, let's chuck it online. It's not that old, it's not out of date, it's current stuff that I would still recommend. So there you go, 7 tips for Facebook to get your brand out there, or if you've got an art page or whatever. It's more applicable to bands because that first tip, like get everyone to share stuff. But if you're an artist, I mean, you need to also share on your personal profile, not just on your artist page. So that's still relevant in that sense. Hey, you're back. Yeah, I just been ranting about my week. Oh my God, I just get so vague about the days of the week. What did I do on Tuesday? I don't even know. Yeah, I got no idea. Anyway, on Monday, I went and saw my doctor because I see my doctor roughly every month. Because if I've got nothing physical going on, it's just to update on my mental health. But usually I try and think of something, I've got these funny little dots. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. I don't know. I can't see without from that angle. I've got these tiny little white dots. There's one there. There was one somewhere there. There was, I don't know. There's tiny little white dots on my skin, and so I've asked about that. For example, they're not acne though. They're just like some kind of skin thing, but she looked at it and she's like, this is so unimportant, it doesn't even have a name, so I don't need to worry about that stuff. Anyway, in terms of mental health, so in the past month or so since I've seen my GP, I had that breakdown sort of where I was just like crying in the kitchen for no reason at all. The day before I'd been feeling pretty empty, but then I was crying in the kitchen the next morning having had no thoughts in my head yet, and it was like being depressed, and I was just like, oh my God. So I told her about that incident. I also explained that I thought it was probably because I'd lost interest in the social, or like sort of pulled back from the social media marketing thing after trying to help punk rave, but just sort of like going like, oh my God, I'm gonna burn out if I do too much of this stuff. Hey, Impaler the Monarch! Yeah, so that's what I was explaining to my doctor is like, okay, I think it's because, I had this obsession, I had something I was focusing on, I lost interest, and then there was nothing really to fill that gap, and that's probably why, after a week, I kind of just collapsed a bit. So I explained that to her, and then she got me to do one of those procrastinating about seeing a doctor. Are you in America though? Like in Australia, we've got, the universal healthcare. So, hey, Thurin, I don't recognize you. Hello and welcome. In Australia, it's really easy to see at least a bulk billing doctor you can get in for free. My doctor is actually at I think they call it a private practice. I don't know, I'm so vague. But because I go so often and I've got mental issues and I also don't have a high level of employment, at best I might work once a week. Next month, I'm only working 2 days in the whole month. So because they're aware of my financial position, I have ongoing mental problems and so on, they actually bulk bill me even though it's a private practice. So that's pretty cool. Yes, it took a while to get healthcare at work. Cost of fortune doesn't cover much. Oh yeah, because in America it's like tied to your workplace. That's so bizarre to me. Hi, I'm new to live streams, but I've been a sub for a while. Oh, hi, welcome, glad you could join us. So if you have any questions, leave them, like, pop them in the chat. Otherwise, like, I'm just gonna go on my own little tangents. I actually prepared stuff today because I was like, I don't know, I just been on top of stuff. But yeah, no, talking to my doctor about my because like I'm not depressed anymore, but I had that one day which was pretty full on, to the point that I got dizzy. And I had a few people trying to tell me, oh, maybe you're dizzy because of this problem. Hello, screen name sound like we need to be on South Park, backing up Butters when he plays Dr. Evil. Oh, okay. I don't really watch South Park, so I don't really know who the characters are. Uh, I've seen bits and pieces, especially the clips of the Mormon thing. That's great. Oh, Blue Love Hearts. Yeah, so I don't know a whole lot about South Park. But yeah, no, I'm not depressed. Like, I haven't been depressed since January 2018. So it's been about a year and a half since I recovered. It's just like, every now and then I have moments. But that one earlier this month was particularly bad. So I thought I'd let my doctor know about that. And she got me to do this questionnaire, which is, to me, seems like a screening for depression and anxiety, but it was only like maybe a dozen questions or so, and they're always so vague. So I was like, I told her, like, okay, this is what my answer is, but it's such a vague question that you could interpret different ways. And like, how do I know, like, on a scale of 1 to 5, what if my numbers don't correspond to what they're, those questionnaires, the longer that time goes on and the more used to them that I get. I mean, I've done them so many times. When did I have my first psych treatment? I think in 2007 I saw my first psychologist. That's probably the first time I did one of those questionnaires. So it's 2007, what, 12 years ago? And then on and off seeing different psychologists, psychiatrists, and most of them will get you to do a questionnaire like that. And it's just like, oh my God, I've answered this so many times. I also know what you're trying to get. So if I wanted to fake a particular answer, I totally could. There's all these kinds of things where I'm just like, nah, how am I supposed to actually convey what's going on in my head? Because the other thing is, like, what if they ask me a question like, do you think about killing yourself, for example? I think about that even when I'm not sad. It's just like a thing that pops into my head. I don't always take it seriously, but if I think about it logically, I'm not thrilled with the world that we're living in. Probably wouldn't stick around if people didn't want me, kind of thing. So and I can just, I'm so desensitized to it that I can just talk to you guys about suicide like this right now, and it's no big deal to me. Like, so when they have those questionnaires saying, do you have like thoughts of death and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, yeah, but that doesn't mean anything anymore, because I don't feel anything when I say that stuff. I don't have to be depressed to think about that stuff. Do you know what I mean? Like, way back when, the question was always about, like, the one that threw me off was like, you've lost interest in sex or something, and I'm like, I wasn't interested in the first place, so how am I supposed to answer this question? Did you say moments? I don't know, because remember, I'm kind of tired from working yesterday, so I, like, sometimes when I get on a tangent or I get on a rant or whatever, my speech will like fuck up and I won't notice. So if I say odd words, that's probably what it is. I may have said lumens, which is a pretty funny one. People always overreact when I talk about suicide. I mean, like, it's a pretty serious topic, especially for like the average person. And as we have more awareness, social awareness, I think it becomes, people who don't have experience in it can be a little bit like, oh my God, someone mentioned this, I need to do something, because that's what they're being told. Like, the Are You Okay Day thing, and they go on about you should be asking people if they're okay, otherwise they'll kill themselves kind of vibe. And it's like, and then sometimes someone asks you, are you okay? And you just know that if you say no, this person will have no idea what to do with you. It's like, it's good that they're spreading awareness, but it's not necessarily practical. You need a hug and pancakes, it'll be all right. Oh my God, yeah, they say shit like that. There's so many dumb things people say. But anyway, and then I'm really open on Facebook. So I think I mentioned some of this stuff in a Facebook post after I'd seen my doctor, and there's someone who's a relatively new Facebook friend who doesn't realize that I am always open about this stuff. I've been going through it since, like, I got diagnosed with depression the first time in 2007, but I think I was actually depressed in, how old was I? It would have been maybe 2003, I think, was the first time I was properly depressed. Moments could be a new word. Name a song, Moments. I love that it's like low moments, but also lament. You could sort of weave all that kind of shit in. Yeah, I think that could be kind of fun. We could make it into a t-shirt. But yeah, no. When Butter's on South Park, it's cute, might cheer you up. Oh, I don't need cheering up today. I'm doing all right. But yeah, I don't know, South Park. I never got into it, and I think that it's maybe because I don't like a lot of the humor on it. But it's been a long time since I watched it, so I only ever tune in occasionally when it's something specific. Like I've seen those clips of the Mormon thing. I've also seen the Scientology clips because I was really interested in religion, you know, back when. So I would have watched a lot of that stuff, but probably just clips on YouTube rather than the actual show. And I don't know that I could sit down and watch the actual show. I think also the cartoon style I don't like. So sometimes people are like, hey, Rick and Morty, I can't watch that show because I hate the cartoon style. I just look at it and I'm like, yeah, no. Butters, Dr. Evil Plant's more innocent? Okay, yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. Sorry, it's not part of my cultural sort of knowledge. Yeah, so talking to my doctor about that depression moment, but she was really pleased with me for being able to assess like what's actually going on, like, you know, the fact that it's just one day, just get through the day, and then the next day I was fine. And then also thinking about the reasons I went through that being because I had that social media marketing obsession for a while, and then suddenly like got over it, and then had like a week before it finally hit me that I've got no idea what I'm doing anymore. So yeah, that talking to her about like the reasons and all that, because like therapy is no good for me because I can kind of figure this shit out on my own, and I was just kind of explaining my own self therapy in a way. So my doctor's happy with that kind of stuff. I didn't mention any destroyer stuff for those of you who know what that is. I will try next week maybe to do a video on that. I'm really going to sit down and figure out what I want to say though. But anyway, I did have it in my mind and I was like, I'm too chicken to say it. So there was a little bit of an awkward silence. I think maybe she could tell that I wasn't saying something, or maybe it was just like, I don't know. I think sometimes my doctor is reluctant to let me out of the little consulting room if she's worried that like she hasn't given me a positive enough thing to go out on. So yeah, I even got a longer consultation than normal, just so, because, you know, I don't want other people, you know, waiting behind me for appointments to be too inconvenienced, because they're always running late there. But yeah, no, I feel like it still went on for a long time. Anyway, so we're sort of having this sort of awkward, me trying to think about whether or not I want to say anything else. And then she comes out and she's like, so I hope this like isn't upsetting or anything. But, and I'm like, oh, I know where this is going. So finally, my doctor, now that I'm not depressed, my doctor's now taking seriously the suggestion that I might be on the spectrum for autism, Asperger's, whatever. Which is funny because the first time I mentioned it, she's like, oh no, you're not autistic. But I don't know what it was. I think the last time I saw her, I mentioned things about like, you know, I think it started off with me talking about having trouble exercising because, you know, sleep, diet, exercise, keeping busy, helping people, and there was one more thing I can never remember, probably because it's not that important, but those are the main things I did to get out of depression and also to try not to get back into depression. You know, it's not perfect, but those are things to try to do to hopefully get healthier. So sleep, diet, exercise, keeping busy, helping people. The hardest one for me is exercise. Therapy makes sense if you have somebody who just gets it. Well, it depends, I think, a lot on the different people, like your therapist and also your own issues. It turns out I probably have more of a biological depression, so talking about it doesn't change my biology. It can maybe help me cope a little bit, but yeah. And then also I've done so much therapy that I already know what they're going to say, so it doesn't really work for me anyway. It doesn't matter how good the person is. So it does depend on what kind of depression you have and other things like that. Some people have problems that can be worked out through therapy. It's just turns out that's not me. Turns out I also can't take medication because I'm sensitive to side effects. But yeah, Anyway, so I think the month before when I saw my doctor, it must have been when we were talking about exercise. And I said, like, I find exercise difficult to do. I don't like the feeling of being sweaty and gross. And so she was suggesting, like, oh, why don't you go swimming then? And I'm like, I don't like that feeling of being all wet and like having to dry my hair off and all this kind of stuff. And I think maybe because I mentioned it once, it's kind of been in the back of her mind, the autism thing. And then she's like, hang on, those could be sensory things. And then she asked me some questions that I feel like are related to sensory stuff. So I think that might have been the moment where she started thinking, oh, gee, maybe autism isn't so far-fetched. She didn't say sensory, that's just what I think she was saying. So then this month when I come back, and then we're talking about mental health, she's like, oh, because you're not depressed, maybe we should look into that. Because, being depressed, that's a more important problem, pressing problem for someone like me. So you got to sort that out, and it can get in the way of being able to assess other things. So she's like, now that you're not depressed, maybe it's worth looking at. Thing is, like, I told her I don't know that I really fit. I should say, oh, I hate the transition of being dry and getting wet, or being wet and getting dry. Getting into the shower for me is not so bad, but getting out is what really sucks. I don't like that transition from being warm to getting out, and then everything gets colder, and then your hair, especially because I've got so much hair at the moment, it takes forever to dry, and then having to brush it, like I have to brush it pretty much straight away so that it's not a pain in the butt to untangle, even with all the conditioner I've been putting in it. And then I don't know. I've straightened it today, although it started to already get a little bit crazy. But straightening it, I didn't realize, if I had known earlier, I would have straightened it from a younger age or whatever. But straightening it seems to help stop tangles, and there was some explanation for it that I've forgotten. But hey, there you go. But yeah, no, trying to wait for your hair to dry. I could get the blow dryer out, but sometimes I'm just like, most of the time I'm like, I can't be bothered. You have to stand there for ages anyway, trying to let it dry. It's just like, no. But, yeah, so I think this is right at the end of the consultation, so we didn't get a lot of time to talk about, whether or not I have autism, whatever. And one of the difficulties for me is because I've got a disabled brother, like, I grew up around a lot of severely autistic people. So I guess my view, what I've seen of autism is quite different to what's publicized now. Like these days they focus a lot more on high functioning autism, which annoys me a little bit because the people who really have it bad are just being ignored. And like, the autism rights thing where they're like, we should just call it a difference. I'm like, if you're high functioning, maybe, but like for severely autistic people, I don't think some of these high-functioning people realize how bad autism can be, like how much it can interfere with people's lives, like the person themselves, and then also their carers and all that. Like it can be like, anyway, tangents, just like my experience of autism. I'm used to seeing the severe cases of it. But obviously if I had anything on the spectrum, it'd be like the mildest possible case because I function fine. I've never had problem with eye contact. Like I was shy when I was younger, and I was a little bit confused because I think at school, like, they used to say, oh, you should look people in the eye when you're speaking because, like, that's how you know someone's telling the truth, which is bullshit. And it's like the more polite thing to do. But at the same time, in Australia, we learn a lot about Indigenous culture early on, or at least I feel like we did when I was a kid. Things may have changed. Maybe they learned more than even I did, or maybe they learned us. I don't know. But I remember learning a lot about Aboriginal cultures, at least on a superficial level, when I was really little. And I was also interested in dreaming stories. I even wrote one a long time ago. These days, people would be all like cultural appropriation, but hey, I was a kid, and if you want to write stories, why not? I wrote my own dreaming story about why echidnas have spikes and turtles have shells. No one would want to hear it though because of the cultural appropriation thing, but that's a tangent. Anyway, I was pretty into some of the Aboriginal stuff. I used to read some of the picture books that we had. Anyway, at some point, I remember someone saying, like, with some of those more traditional cultures, it's actually rude to look people in the eye because it's like, I mean, if you think about it, humans looking each other in the eye is maybe a little bit unusual in the animal world. When dogs look each other in the eye, it's usually because they're trying to challenge you to attack. So if you ever come across an aggressive dog that is growling at you, do not look it in the eyes because it may take it as a challenge and attack you. That's something I learned, like, I don't know when, primary school as well. But so with some of the tribes, they kind of have that perspective as well. If you're going to respect someone, you should avert your gaze. So for me, like, thinking about that, I was like, well, people keep telling me to look them in the eye, but is it actually rude? I don't know. So that's the only thing I remember about eye contact, was just learning two different ways of doing it and being like, all right, and then just mostly being shy. And when you're shy, you behave differently anyway, doesn't mean you're autistic. So there's that with sensory issues. Like, yeah, I don't like getting wet and having a shower, but I also don't have a breakdown if I have to do it. I mean, I don't know how it is for high functioning autistic people, but you know, the sensory thing, you're supposed to have like meltdowns and stuff if it all gets too much, and I don't really think I've had that experience. I just have a particular preference, and what's the difference between a preference and a sensory issue? Like, I don't know. And you know, same with like different fabrics. So this jumper, for example, has these things where it attaches here. If it is a little bit scratchy and annoying if I wear it in the wrong way. Like here it's fine, but if it hits on that side of my hand, it scratches more. But that's just like a preference. And does anyone like really scratchy feeling? I don't think so. So I don't think that's really, I mean, I will tend to dress more comfortably, but since getting into the gothic thing, sometimes you have to put up with a bit more. But generally, that's why I don't shop online most of the time, because I am picky about how things feel. I like to try on clothes before I buy them. So the cool thing about Punk Rave Australia is they just send me stuff for free, and I'm like, yay! But yeah, so I'm kind of like, if clothes are uncomfortable, what's wrong with that? I don't think that's autistic. It's kind of strange. I don't know if it's a local thing, but nodding your head up, it's a challenge, rude. Nodding your head down, it's like a hello, acknowledge. Well, I mean, I've never heard it codified as such, but if you're like, you know, that does seem a bit more rude. Whereas if you're like, hey, you know, you're walking past someone, you see a fellow metalhead, and you're like, hey, you like your shirt kind of thing. I can kind of get that as like a subconscious thing, but I've never heard it codified as like your head up is like, nah, I'm gonna attack you kind of thing. But I guess like there are different cultures that have different ways of interacting. So yeah, interesting stuff to think about. But yeah, no, in terms of like autism or Asperger's, I know they've been combined in the most recent DSM-5 into like the autism spectrum. I think in the ICD, Asperger's is seen as a type of autism rather than its own thing. They do belong together, but yeah, I think the DSM has just said they're all part of the same thing now. Which I don't know. Are there clearer differences? I don't remember. As I said, my main experience with autistic people is the severe cases, like non-verbal, the kinds who'll just like smash their head against the wall, can be violent sometimes. It usually depends a lot on body language accompanying the gestures too. Also, this is still stuck loading, and is everyone seeing everything okay? I think I'm on the right internet this time. Yeah, I'm on the right internet. Hopefully it shows up all right. Yeah, it's kind of hard. Sometimes I don't know if it's because like Australian internet is dodgy, or if it's on like the other end, or I don't know, something YouTube's doing, but sometimes the stream can be a little bit dodgy. But yeah, no, Australia's not exactly known for the best internet, although ours is supposed to be all right. We're still on cable internet. We haven't been swapped to the NBN. Things have sort of been fine, but I think I've said before, our downloads are better than our uploads. But yeah, so you're not crazy, just a little on the edge. It's working. Hey, awesome. Yeah, so Do I have some kind of autism, Asperger's spectrum thing? I don't know. I mean, I can see why some people might think that, especially if they know me in real life. I mean, the way I talk on camera obviously is a little bit different to how I act in real life, just because like the camera changes things, and also I'm on my own, and it's like, "La." If I'm in, so I've got this family thing on Sunday. Chances are I'm going to be very quiet. Whose place is it at? I don't know if I think the cat must be long dead by now. They used to have a cat. I don't think I've seen any cat there in a while. I don't think they've gotten a new cat. So often when I go to family things, I will gravitate towards whatever the animal is and annoy the hell out of it. I don't think these guys have any kind of animal though, so I will have to, I don't know, if Mikey's coming, Mikey's my youngest brother, he's the disabled one. If he's there, often me and Dave, who's my other brother, will often just sort of hang around him and make sure he's having an okay time and not being too loud and disruptive. Because I don't know, my whole family's not particularly social. I think the most social person, could you see if you can bring Hope with you? Oh, no. Hope will hate that. He hates going out of the house. He gets anxious. And it'll be full of people, so that's not happening. But yeah, no, my whole family's not that social. I think the most social person in terms of my household, like mum, dad, two brothers, two dogs, the most social out of all of us would probably be dad. I mean, he still goes to church. I question whether or not he's still Catholic, because occasionally he seems like he's actually, like, maybe I've corrupted him and he's sort of doubted and maybe might be an atheist, but he still goes to church, and I suspect if he doesn't believe in it anymore, it's partly for the social side of things. He's also more likely to just randomly talk to people, and I'm like, Dad, so you realize like you're an old white guy just chatting up random people, and not everyone's going to be comfortable with that. Just like be careful who you talk to and what you say to them. I don't know. But dads are meant to make you feel awkward anyway, so he's doing a good job sometimes. But yeah, no, he just randomly talks to anyone, really. It's kind of funny. Whereas like what mum is not very social. There are a couple of ladies that she'll talk to every now and then though. So I think she's more social than she likes to admit. She'll have lunch with some workmates, or used to be like class mothers, so mothers of some of my high school friends. My dad was the same way. So I have Asperger's. My mother remarried and had two children, both of which have been diagnosed with some sort of autism. The doc apparently mentioned my mother probably has autism too, so it might be somewhat genetic. Yeah, I've heard that. I've heard also of like mothers taking their kids to be assessed, finally finding out that they were autistic, and then the doctors explaining to the mother like, this is why your kid counts as autistic, and then the mums being like, oh my god, that sounds like me. I've seen like news reports of that, but like a few years ago there was a big fuss, at least in Australia, about women being underdiagnosed for autism, and I think that's when people are like, maybe that's you, talking to me. And yeah, there were quite a few news stories about it where like, people discovered they were autistic because their kids were diagnosed and they finally found out what it was. So that's kind of interesting. Interesting thing for me is like I've grown up around all kinds of disability and whatever, and yeah, so no one's ever thought that entire time that I was autistic, even though we were all exposed to it. But maybe that's just because it was the severe form of autisms that we were looking at. And sometimes people mistake Mikey for being autistic because, like, I mean, he has a train obsession. He also had a Wiggles obsession. He just watched that all the time. So I can still sing the Quack Quack song by the Wiggles completely a cappella with actions. I won't torture you guys with that stuff. I also, now that he's moved on to trains, I now know the difference between a Tangara, a Millennium train, a Waratah, an Oscar. Is there another one in between there out of major trains? I mean, there's S-sets, and there's also some of the other ones that come from the Blue Mountains. I used to like the V-sets. I think those were the ones the Blue Mountains trains when I was living out that way. Anyway, I can tell on sight what these fucking trains are, and it's because of Mikey, because he just turns YouTube on, and it's just endless train videos. Hey guys, it's Phil here from City Trains Vlogs, STV, whatever, and I'm like, hello, Phil! Why do I know all this stuff? Because of you and Mikey. Oh my god. At least he's not Gloria Choo Choo. I hate Gloria Choo Choo. Every time I hear fucking voice, I'm just like, no! Put Phil back on. yeah, anyway, so people mistake Mikey for autistic. He's not. He's just got a general intellectual impairment. There's no name for it because like, it's just, whatever. So he's got cerebral palsy, epilepsy, and unspecified intellectual impairment. It just happens that he gets a little bit fixated on things, and that's the only thing he has in common with autism as far as I can think off the top of my head. He's quite affectionate with people. He can also be kind of manipulative. So if he has a carer and he knows they're not strong enough to get him to do things, he'll play up. But with his favorite carers, he's really well behaved. He's so funny. He can only say like one syllable words or clumsily say two syllable. And even with one syllable, you have to sort of understand his language to really know what he's trying to say. Like he can't say trains, but he'll say something like day as trains, but in different contexts that could mean different things. So day could also be David, which is our other brother. So he's not really verbal. Yeah, Mikey, I don't know how you would explain what he's like, but he can be quite affectionate and can be quite chatty. He doesn't have problems with people. Of course, his social interactions are going to be different, but that's just because he doesn't understand stuff. He's very much the center of the universe kind of kid, but he's also like he has this sort of cute charm compared to some of the other disabled people that he's around a lot, so, he can get his way sometimes by manipulating people. Oh dear, it's so funny. Anyway, so what the question of me being autistic or Asperger's, I think will be explored next month or so when I see my doctor again. She'll probably be thinking about it more. And then what she was saying something about going, like, you could see a psychiatrist to get assessed. The thing is, if I was on the spectrum, okay, I would be incredibly mild, and also being female, and also being my own kind of weird, I think it'd be very hard to assess. So you would have to get some kind of expert who has a lot of experience in women adults with autism, and yeah, I don't know that just any psychiatrist is going to be able to figure that out. So there's that side of things, and how expensive is it going to be? When I saw psychiatrists for depression, yes, Medicare covers some of it, but I was still paying like almost $200 depending on the psychiatrist for the first consult, and I'm like, yeah, that would be like more than a whole day's pay, and I don't work very often, so I'm not that keen if it's going to cost a lot to find out. And then the other thing is, even if it turns out I am autistic, how does that change my life? It doesn't really, because no one's ever going to assess me as needing any kind of help, really. I don't think so. In Australia, the best, like, if you have a severe disability, Centrelink will put you on disability payments and so on. Mikey has that because he's never going to be able to work. Like we try and give him odd jobs, but he needs absolute supervision for everything pretty much. So, like we used to get him to sweep the pathway because he kind of likes that. He likes puzzles, and so if you're sweeping up, okay, once you sweep the leaves, everything goes in the bin, and that's where its place is. He likes things to have a place. But then every now and then, after he swept everything, got this full bucket of leaves and so on, he'd think it was really funny to just tip it all out and then do it again. And you're like, yeah, okay, so not an employable kid ever. So of course he gets the disability payment. For someone like me though, if I came in saying, look, I'm prone to depression and maybe I have some kind of mild autism, they'll look at me and be like, you can still work. Not taking into account the fact that I'm screwed up enough that I can only do a maximum of 1 day a week, but whatever. From Centrelink's perspective, because they're dickheads, they're never going to understand my struggles with this stuff. Don't mention your paper cranes to the doctor. I'm not sure what you're referring to there. Maybe I'm gone on a tangent and I don't know what's happening anymore. Yeah, no, so I wouldn't get anything from Centrelink for getting a diagnosis. And then it's not going to change the way anyone interacts with me, because if I was on the spectrum, it's so mild that it's like, what do you change? Like, nothing. I mean, we've already changed enough about my life that I'm doing better anyway. Disability payment is new. and apparently really hard to get. Even some people with severe disabilities struggle to get onto it. It's not new. Disability support payments been around for ages. He got onto it when he was 18, I think. I think like I wasn't paying attention when he first got onto it, but I think a while later they made him come in for a review because they were cracking down on people on the disability payment, and so Mum's like, really, and she's like, fine, takes him in, and the moment they see him, they're just like, oh. Okay, yep, disabled. So I mean, there's no question with a kid like Mikey. Maybe from a distance he sometimes looks normal, but the moment he opens his mouth, you're just like, oh my god. Didn't you make like? Oh no. So with my paper cranes, I made. I think maybe I have 250 hanging from a coat hanger, and then I did have a bunch before that I was making. Oh my god, that was a long time ago. I first started making paper cranes in primary school, but then we moved across the road for a bit when we were renovating back in 2001 maybe, and then when we came back over, I lost my box of paper cranes and had to start over, and then I just haven't done anything in a long time. Where are we up to? Well, it's newly accepting Aspie people or something. Oh, okay. I didn't understand the distinction there. Should make a paper crane making tutorial. Oh, paper cranes, you should be able to find heaps on YouTube because it's quite basic, but I could maybe do that sometime. Yeah, no, I mean, the whole thing with the disability stuff is a little bit difficult because I used to work, I was continuously employed from 2007 until I got really badly depressed in 2016, and I managed to cope through all that. But in 2016, what happened, apart from being severely depressed, like the most depressed I've ever been for the longest amount of time, I was also trying antidepressants, more antidepressants, like different ones than before, and we were really trying to find one that would work for me, but I kept having side effects. And the one that was just like tipped me over the edge was the one that made me really lethargic, and I was just like, I can't even concentrate anymore. So that's when I had to stop working. And then since I recovered in 2018, then I was doing uni still. The disability guys at UNSW were really good. They were really helpful. It just gave me the peace of mind to be able to get through that degree. I don't think I ever formally used my disability provisions, for being depressed. They call everything disability, even though it was just like depression. I guess that counts in a sort of roundabout way, but it's not what I would traditionally think of disability. But anyway, it was through the disability guys that I got that help. And they were really good. It just gave me the peace of mind to be able to get through the degree. I could have used the provisions, but I didn't. It's really important for me to do as much as I can myself. So it's just nice having that cushion. But anyway, then after I recovered, I was still at uni for a bit, so I was busy. And then after that, I tried that art job. It's fucking awful. I hate fucking lady. But now I've got the bonsai job, but it's maximum once a week. And next month, only 2 days for the whole month. And I've been checking out job search, but it's just like, because I've been depressed so many times, so I don't think my problems with work would be anything autism spectrum related. I think it's more just because I've been depressed so many times and I've become more aware about what tends to set me off. Like, if I feel trapped, I'm much more likely to feel depressed. And if I feel like I constantly have to be making money, I'm also more likely to end up depressed just from that pressure. Money is so annoying. I wish we didn't have to worry about it. But I think it's more to do with my depression and knowing what is likely to set me off. So I've seen some full-time jobs that I thought maybe I should apply, but when I look and I see they're full-time and I'm like, oh, I'm struggling as it is to be okay with casual work. And like bonsai is kind of relaxing, the day goes fast, but I still have that sort of reluctance as I know that it's coming up. There's just I think my brain, because like work and depression and all that, I think my brain sort of just connected the two, and it's very difficult to get past that, to be able to find a job that I can do without going crazy and then have the guts to apply for it. Because a lot of these things that I think of, like, it's mostly the social media stuff that I start seeing, and there's some work from home stuff, and I'm like, maybe I could do that, but I don't really know, and I probably wouldn't get it anyway, but maybe I should apply, but what if I get it? I don't know. Actually, speaking of, there was this one job I saw recently, it's still in my inbox. Um, Locally, there's like some gaming company, like obviously a small indie gaming company. They want someone to do their YouTube, and I was looking at that like, could I do YouTube for someone else? Um, I hate my job. I work in a hot warehouse in a hostile work environment, and it's a production job, so it's extremely physical. Oh yeah, that sounds awful. I mean, occasionally during the summer it was quite hot at the bonsai place, and yeah, that was rough. And like we had to work in the studio area, so it wasn't completely outdoors. But oh my god, um, yeah, not the same as working in a hot warehouse, but similar kind of feeling. Australia gets so hot in summer. I think there was one day we had a delivery, and the delivery guy was saying, yeah, he sent all these workers home because it was just too hot to work in. I think they maybe were further north. I don't remember. Anyway, sometimes it's just way too hot. But yeah, no, I saw this. Lost over 40 pounds this year. Oh, so what's that like? What 1 kilo is 2.2 pounds, I think. So a bit under 20 kilos. I think. Yeah. Wow, that's a lot. Oh, when I went, the doctor actually weighed me, and I'm down to 51, which is basically like what, a couple of meals. Usually I'm about 52 is my stable weight at the moment. A huge improvement compared to when I was on that Sipper meal, and it just like destroyed my appetite. I got down to 47, which for my height is just not enough weight. 52 is a lot better. It's on the low side of healthy, whereas 47 was actually underweight. Yeah, and actually, since I put on weight, I don't have that thing as much where you stand up too fast and then start blacking out a little bit. I don't get that so much since I finally put on that weight, so yay. The most I ever weighed, I think, was about 54 or 55 when I was on tricyclics. Vertigo, yeah, might be what it's called. Oh, you did the calculation. 18.144 kilograms. That's a lot of weight to lose. Gosh, if you lose that too quickly, it can be quite unhealthy. So be careful. Be careful with that stuff. I hope you take care of yourself when you're working in that situation. Drink plenty of water. Speaking of, I did bring my water this time. I actually did some singing warm-ups before coming out, so because God, I need to clean this straw again. I fucking hate the reusable straw thing. It's part of the water bottle, but I'm sure I've ranted about the reusable straw movement. Especially annoyed because Mikey likes his plastic straws, and you couldn't give him a metal straw or something. You'd just break his damn teeth on it. Think about disabled people when you come up with your environmental policy. Especially one that's not that important. But that's another rant. Yeah, the most I ever weighed was about 54 or 55 kilos when I was on a tricyclic antidepressant. That was the one that finally broke me out of being underweight. It's just, it stopped working for my depression, and then we tried to increase the dose, and then I got bad stomach pain, so I couldn't take it anymore, which was a little bit of a shame, but at least I didn't drop all the way back to 47. I managed to stay around that 50 to 52 range, so yay. I'm in the healthy range now, but sometimes I think maybe I should put on a bit more. It's just that now I've got all these clothes in the right size. I'm like, maybe I should just stay this weight as best I can. Actually, when I was on that tricyclic and I got up to the 54, 55, there were some pants that I struggled to do the buttons up, and I was like, oh my god, I actually have this experience for a change. And actually, even once I've stabilized, there's this one gothic sort of cincher thing that doesn't fit me anymore. Like, even if I try and suck in all my air, I don't fit anymore. So tangible proof I've put on weight for a change. Probably the only person who's ever excited about gaining weight, but hey, whatever. I think I've become more healthy since I put on the weight. What was I talking about before? Oh, the YouTube job. Yeah, there's guys who want to hire someone to be like the face of their YouTube and help them work out what to what to put on their channel. And I was like, oh, I kind of do that stuff. Maybe I should apply, especially because like a portion of it is work from home, a portion of it you actually go in to do filming and stuff, but it's actually fairly close-ish to where I live compared to some other things. So it's like, maybe I should apply, but the problem is it's about gaming. And I mean, I think their type of gaming is maybe the more casual stuff that I kind of do. I play like Idle Apocalypse on my phone, where you only need to log in every now and then it does stuff in the background. I think there's a new thing coming out soon. Anyway, it probably won't apply to me because I'm still like very low level in it. So I think they do what I didn't really look at their website, but there was like a Bitcoin game or something, and I'm like, don't really care about Bitcoin or games mostly, so it's probably, I mean, I could maybe fake being enthusiastic about it, but it's easier to make videos when you're actually interested. So I was like, on the one hand, job related to YouTube. YouTube is a thing I enjoy. On the other hand, the subject matter, not so much. Maybe that would kill my interest in YouTube. And, you know, the other thing about if I found too much work is like, I feel like I wouldn't have enough time to do my own YouTube. That's the difficult thing, is like I've now fallen into a good pattern in my life where I, you know, my parents, I'm lucky my parents can support me to just like sit around on my bum most of the time, which gives me the time to be able to do videos, and music and all that. And it's like, if I find work again, I probably won't have as much time, and I'd have to be very careful because, you know, the last proper job I had was practically full-time. I think the person who did it before me was actually full-time. I got paid the same amount, but I didn't have to go in as much because I was a lot more efficient than them. So it's like a full-time job, but I was doing part-time hours. I don't know. So when I was doing that, I was also doing Rainbow Death Ray at the same time. So I'd go to work during the day, come home, and then do a heap of work for my band. Like we did crowdfunding, I was doing all our social media, all our marketing, all our organizing gigs, you know, and then talking to the girls about the other things that we needed to be doing. Because I was like essentially going to work during the day and working my butt off, and then coming home and working my butt off, and I just burned out. And then, you know, when my grandparents died, I just had, I had nothing left to be able to cope with it. So it's a bit like, how do I manage my time so that I don't burn out? It feels like I've kind of got a choice between doing a lot of work for money or spreading things out. And like, if it's the wrong kind of job and I hate it, that's a recipe for depression. It's very difficult to work this stuff out. It's like, why can't I just deal with it like everyone else does, you know? There's so many people go to work every day and they manage to get through it and all that. And it's weird thinking like, why is this not enough for me? Why is it such a struggle? Is it really just because I'm that mentally ill that I can't think like everyone else or feel like everyone else? I don't know. It's an odd thing, because I feel like what I think in my head, to me, feels rational and reasonable, but it clearly doesn't fit into the world that we're living in. So it's a very difficult thing to sort of think about, you know, why is it so hard? But it is, you know, if I start thinking about stuff, even if I'm like, okay, you just need to do this because that's what it's done, I get this emotional reaction where I'm like, no. So very, very tricky kind of thinking, especially when you think about your own mental illness in a more abstract, separated from yourself kind of way. It gets very weird very quickly. There's a lot of weird stuff that goes on in my head though, you know. I do have a tendency to compartmentalize different emotions, and the thing about burnout is I'm very bad at spotting it. Like the stuff with Punk Rave Australia's social media, when I was helping them with that, that's the first time I've spotted the burnout right at the start of it and been able to shut it down before it became a problem. In the past, like especially with that work during the day, band during the night, every single day, I had no idea how badly I was burning out until I looked back on it in hindsight. So at least I've gotten better in that sense, but it makes me more reluctant to take on different things, because I do know that I'm prone to burnout and not being able to spot it. So yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword. On the one hand, I'm protecting myself by preventing burnout, but on the other hand, it's stopping me from functioning the way I'm supposed to and make money. But I mean, from a more logical perspective, what I feel like is logical is like, well, I don't really like this world anyway. What's the point of making money if I don't want to be here? And trying to think about that kind of stuff, I'm like, well, why would I try and work so much? It gets really weird in my head because I think there's a struggle between the part of me that's trying to protect myself and the part of me that's trying that recognizes that I have to live a certain way, I have to do certain things if I want to get by in life. So that's very difficult for me to try and think about. Now, if there's no particular questions, because I've just gone on like for an hour pretty much just talking about my week, but if you've got any questions, you can pop them now, because otherwise I have another piece of paper I've printed out. Let me just have a drink. Fucking plastic straws, and it's leaking a little bit. Did I not put the lid on properly? Hang on. Alright, wow, how did I fuck this up? I don't know, for some reason it's just leaking. Anyway, so, no questions. Okay, well, the thing I've printed out is, I found it. I think, Porcelain Poetry, I mentioned this to you. It's, I hope this isn't showing backwards. List of female Asperger syndrome traits. Oh, awesome hoodie, where did you get it? I got it in Japan. I mentioned at the start of the stream, I think when you missed it. Yeah, in Japan. I think I got this in that Ueno market. They have a whole bunch of stores. So Amiya Yokocho, if you come out of Ueno Station, and then I think you go down the rightmost part of Amiya Yokocho, and then go down the, I don't know, this is in my Gothic Tokyo guide, like actually where this shop was. I don't know, I would have to check if it's still around. They had a mix of like pop culture kinds of stuff, and then they had like a small Gothic section, and I've gotten stuff there before as well, maybe in 2016, or was it 2012? Did I go in 20? Yeah, I went in 2012. So it's been there a while. The market, like for Gothic stuff, there's not a whole lot. It's just like this shop, and then there's some jewelry shops that have more Gothic kind of stuff. But in terms of clothing, was there a band shirt shop? And I think that's about it for Amiya Yokocho. If you want Gothic stuff, Harajuku is the best place. Yeah, anyway, so I've got my list of female Asperger syndrome traits, and I don't know how legit this is. Mostly kawaii stores. It's all over the place. I don't know that kawaii in Harajuku, like AC/DC Rag has a sort of more kawaii, colorful pop sort of side, but they also have a dark side. And if you go to different stores, you'll find the different products. But that's still in Harajuku. If you in other places, especially like those touristy places, it tends to be like touristy stuff. There was a lot of American stuff. I think they've got a American population. Maybe it's mostly African American. I had a conversation with one of those guys there. Didn't see too many white Americans. But yeah, they had some American stuff because Japanese do like a lot of foreign labels. And then it was a lot of like standard fashion. There actually is quite a lot of standard like Western fashion kinds of brands, and then also like the Japanese equivalents as well. So it was just kind of like normal market kind of stuff. It wasn't too crazy. If you want the really interesting stuff, it's Harajuku all the way pretty much. There's a handful of other places. There's one in Shinjuku, and yeah, I don't know. I'd have to get my guide out. The guide is so long though. It's so many pages and so much writing, and I think that's one of the reasons I haven't turned it into a video or a blog, because, you know, I feel like I need to find pictures from my trip to match up with each one, and just haven't got around to it. So, yeah. Anyway, anything else you want to ask about the Japan and fashion stuff? Otherwise, I might go through this autism list. But no, so I actually found this female autism traits thing probably back when people were making the huge fuss a few years ago about female autism going undiagnosed. And there's actually also, someone posted like a gender neutral version on Tumblr, and that had a link to the original source, but the original source is now gone, and then they've put it into this PDF instead. So I don't know if the link was always wrong. I feel like the link originally went somewhere, because I do kind of remember something like that. So there's like one thing on this that's changed. I've got the original one. It's from what, www.helpforaspergers, like as the number, aspergers.com. And I think they kind of focused on girls with autism. And I don't know how legit it is though, because I don't remember seeing anything about the science of it, how they came up with this stuff. It seems to be the author's personal experience of female autistic traits, or is it Asperger's specifically they're talking about? It says Asperger's. Anyway, I kind of use them interchangeably because that's kind of what it's become, hasn't it? But yeah, so I don't know how legit this list is. And then with the gender neutral version on Tumblr, I have even more concerns about that because I feel like they just made it gender neutral for more like gender politics reasons, and some of the things they changed, I was like, can you really say that? Maybe you're changing too much. Instead of just making it gender neutral, you're changing the meaning. But anyway, if there are no other questions, maybe we can go through this list and have a little bit of a giggle. Because I don't know if this covers all the, I don't think it covers all the autism things. I think it's just like the main differences that you might see in females with autism. So it probably misses stuff like the eye contact thing and some stuff that I feel like, I mean, I know it's different, there's different parts of the spectrum, but I feel like it's missing things that you need. But I was looking at this again last night and just having a giggle, and I'm like, yeah, that's the experience I had reading this the first time around when I first stumbled onto it. So if you want to have some fun, we can go through this list. Give you one last chance to make a comment, just in case there's a delay, but no, okay. So this is the original version, and then I'll make a note about one of the gender neutral ones. They called it, in the gender neutral one, they call it, like atypical autism traits, because they don't want to say female because it's one of those new age kind of gender things. And I'm like, well, you're still talking about biological female autism, so yeah, if we're saying that sex and gender are different things, can we not have some consistency there? But anyway, list of female Asperger autism syndrome, list of female, I'm so tired I can't even read. List of female Asperger syndrome traits, and it's divided into 4 sections. So there's appearance and personal habits, intellectual / giftedness / education / vocation, emotional / physical, and social relationships. And so we'll start with appearance and personal habits. So the first point, dresses comfortably due to sensory issues and practicality. I used to do this all the time. The only reason I ever wear anything that's not 100% comfortable these days is because I got more into gothic fashion, and sometimes when you want a particular look, you kind of just have to suck it up. But before I got into gothic stuff, I always just wore trackies, really, you know, or like jeans and a t-shirt. Probably not jeans though. Probably just trackies and a t-shirt, and I would just wear the same trackies all the damn time. Although, like in Australia, we have uniforms at a lot of schools, especially high schools. I went to a private Catholic girls' school, and of course they have uniforms the entire way. So I didn't have to think about what to wear a lot of the time. I will say when they changed the summer uniform, that was horrible and uncomfortable, and I had to wear a bra just to stop my nipples from scratching on the fucking fabric. I've since worked out that you can just use band-aids instead, because bras are terrible. I hate them. Although I've never been measured for a proper one, so maybe it's my own fault for just wearing sports bras all the time. Anyway, that's a tangent. Yeah, no, I used to always just dress comfortably, but that's just because, like, I didn't give a shit about my appearance. Like, I bought into that whole you shouldn't judge a book by its cover kind of thing, and just assumed that people would actually get to know me before, you know, coming up with an idea about me, and it's fucking not true. People will judge you on all kinds of stuff. Some people will judge you on shallow things like attractiveness and ugliness and whatever, but people, even if you put that aside, you know, you can actually tell a fair bit about a person based on the, like, you know, facial expressions when they're talking to you, or when, you know, facial expressions when you see them interacting with someone from a distance. You can tell by the way they dress something about their personality. There's all kinds of, like, subtle cues that we give off to each other. So you can judge part of a book by its cover. You can't judge the entire thing, but, you know, just to... I thought people would get to know me first, and of course that wasn't true, and it's only once I started dressing differently that people were like, oh, and sort of they started to wonder about me a bit more, and yeah, that was interesting. I didn't expect that to happen. But yeah, no, before that I was just like wear whatever's comfortable. Didn't give a shit. Same thing with my hair. Like there's one time in high school, actually a couple times in school overall, where I just like cut it as short as anyone would let me go. No one's ever let me shave my hair. But yeah, and so I looked like a guy sometimes. I sort of went for that androgynous look. Second point. So, speaking of hair, will not spend much time on grooming and hair. Hairstyles usually have to be wash and wear. Can be quite happy not grooming at all times. So like I've been in a habit of brushing my hair every day from a young age, but I'm so bad with hair. So like occasionally, like at school, if it got beyond a certain length, you had to tie it up. So often I just keep it short so I didn't have to bother about that. But there were times where it was long enough that I had to tie it up. Sort of went through, phases of that. Didn't learn that hair straighteners would actually make things easier for a long time. Never had any interest. Generally don't like to mess with my hair until I got into gothic things and heavy metal and whatever. It's the only time I started thinking about hair. But if you think about, some of you have been around long enough to know that I've worn, like I had colored hair and I had synthetic dreads and cyberlocks and all that kind of stuff on occasion, and you'd be like, how can you say you're not interested in hair if you got all that stuff done? The thing is, having cyberlocks and synthetic dreads actually sewn into your hair makes them very steady, very stable, and then because they're synthetic, they're plastic, when you wash them, they just, the water just drains out of them. Don't get woolen dreads, they don't dry well. But the plastic synthetic ones, it just drains out, it dries relatively quickly. And then you go to bed, you wake up, you already look good. All you have to do is straighten out your real hair, or like brush out your real hair, and you're good to go. You don't have to do anything. You don't even have to put makeup on. Like, it's just your hair already says, hey, you're weird and different. It was a really easy solution to hair. I mean, I can't afford to do that stuff at the moment, so I'm just growing my hair so that I have options for when I can finally do that. But then I'll get a professional to fix my hair up. And then for a few months after that, all I need to do is just wake up, brush things out. I probably won't do the back brush puffing up here, the back area thing again. I don't have the energy for that kind of anime look anymore. I've still got the Rockstar powder stuff for it though, but I only ever did like over the top stuff for performances. But so like in general, I suppose that one fits me, where I don't spend much time on grooming. I mean, like what with makeup, the most I ever really do is just the eyeliner, and then to hide my shitty makeup skills, just get some eyeshadow and smudge over it, and there you go, you're done. The rest of makeup, fuck it, I don't have the effort for that. I just can't be bothered. The next point, eccentric personality may be reflected in appearance. Oh shit. Okay, well, yeah, for as long as I can remember, people have known I was a little bit different, and I've never given a shit about how I'm supposed to look. My grandma did try and get me in a dress, and try and make me seem more conventional, but, given the chance. Once I got over that trackies situation and became a sort of heavy metal goth chick, whatever, yeah, then my personality being crazy reflected in appearance. Oh my god, I'm so glad. Does anyone remember Windows Live Spaces? I had a space. It was like dragonlugia.spaces.live.something. I don't know. I actually posted some of my earliest experiments with fashion, and I'm kind of glad that's not on the internet anymore. Sometimes they say if you upload something on the internet, it stays forever, but that shit you can't find. The only place you can find that somehow, I don't know if I set this up or what, but somehow Facebook has connected to my old space and imported all my old blogs as notes. It didn't keep the photos though, it just kept the text. So actually, if some of you are sad that my old vampire interview videos are no longer online, I think it might have actually saved my transcripts, because I think maybe I must have used to post them to my space or something, because I've suddenly seen all this stuff about vampire interviews, and I'm like, holy shit, where did all this come from? When did Facebook import this stuff? Did I set this up? How does it know it's me? It's just like really bizarre, some of the stuff I found. I was trying to find a specific note the other day, and I just saw the vampire stuff. I'm like, maybe I need to like turn this into a video just to like revisit that vampire stuff because it's really interesting. Yeah, you remember those? It's not just me. Because I think I've lost the original videos. I have all my YouTube videos from about 2011 onwards. So that would have been when I got that computer, which I'm gonna have to replace that computer at some point. But when I got that computer, I thought, but it's like really long time ago, isn't it? Yeah, I think it was maybe 2009-ish, 2010, maybe 2009. 2010, I probably got a bit distracted. 2009 ish, like 2008 is when I started YouTubing. 2009 I think might have been when I got into the, interviewing vampires. It was those videos who introduced me to Static X. Yeah, I used to listen to one of their albums. So yeah, God, such a, nostalgia thing and looking at that. I didn't read any of them because I was just so shocked. I was trying to find a specific note and there was all this garbage from 2008, 2009. I was just like, holy shit. Because I don't have a record of those videos. I thought I had saved them somewhere, but it turns out I hadn't. And I've only got videos from 2011 onwards, so stuff that I would have filmed on my current computer. And that I think misses that whole era because 2011, I would have been living out west with my ex and he hated my YouTubing. So by 2011, I probably was doing it a lot less. Kind of a shame, but what can you do when you're stuck around manipulative people who won't let you do the things you like? Yes, learn from past me. Don't date douchebags. And just don't date. It's not worth it. That's me being, arrow ace kind of, yeah. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, next one. Is youthful for her age in looks, dress, behavior, and tastes. So recently on my This Fire Burns video, someone was saying, what, is she like 16? And I'm like, I haven't been 16 for almost that many years. Oh my God, how can anyone mistake me for 16? But for some reason, people see me as younger. Now, this person is claiming it's because of female autism, but I will point out I'm half Japanese and Japanese people do tend to look younger for longer, but because initially I look more white to most people, often that Asian aspect of me gets missed, so I think that confuses people a lot about my age. They don't sense the Asian part that's making me look younger than I should. So I'm being kind of funny, but not necessarily autistic. That's why I question the value of these things, but it is kind of a funny read when you read it with me because there are so far what I think those first 4 things have fit me in some way. I used to just dress comfortably all the time until I found a reason not to, which is explained later on by the eccentric personality maybe reflected in appearance. So now I have to wear uncomfortable stuff sometimes. Corsets. Actually, corsets are better than bras at least. And then you have that satisfying feeling of taking one off and suddenly, like when you have it on, it's like armor. But when you take it off, it's like, I'm a slob again. Just popped in, interesting point to do so. Oh well. Okay, I don't know which part. We're going over this list of female Asperger symptoms traits from this website, www.helpforaspergers.com. So yeah, it's kind of funny, and I fit the first 4 things. Dresses comfortably, but also my appearance is crazy because I'm crazy. Don't give a shit about female Aspergers. Yeah. I don't give a shit about my hair so much. If I do a funky hairstyle, I try and make it low maintenance. The only thing that was ever high maintenance was keeping that anime look at the back. And yeah, nowadays I just shave the back. And I think I kind of want to shave the back again just because it's annoying having so much hair back there and it gets tangled so much. But it's the middle of winter, so I'm not going to do it anytime soon. And I'll get like a pattern carved in there, although that's high maintenance. But whatever. Something to think about for later. And then yeah, I look younger than I actually am. I mean, I'm fucking turning 31 in a couple of months, and I still, if I go somewhere, I'm always like, don't ask my ID. I'm so fucking sick of having to get my driver's license out. Anyway, what was, I don't know where this fits in, but in the atypical version, like the gender neutral version that was on Tumblr, they also had this section which I think may have appeared on this website originally, but has either been deleted or maybe I imagined it being there. But one of the things they said was may have androgynous traits, thinks of themselves as half male, half female. And I did go through a big androgyny phase. I think if I hadn't gotten into goth, I'd probably still be going for the androgynous thing. Because fuck gender norms and gender stereotypes. Although I will say that this person who's written the Tumblr has a sort of new age, new trans kind of bias where, you know, I wonder if they're appropriating some of trans culture. But anyway, that's another debate for another day that I don't really want to get into because it upsets people. But yeah, so although there is a thing, there's like some actually gender clinic in America, I think, and they take all that kind of stuff kind of seriously, and they have noticed they have a higher proportion than compared to like the average proportion. They have a high proportion of people with autism presenting for gender treatments, which I think kind of makes sense, because if you don't understand the way that society is set up, if you think differently and all that, and you know, you don't follow gender norms and you don't understand why they even fucking exist, then I think it's kind of logical that maybe you might consider, oh gee, maybe I don't understand it because I'm in the wrong body or kind of thing. I can kind of see how that could be related in that sense. What a list of, yeah, it's like reading a horoscope. Well, yeah, see, I don't know how legit it is, and it's based on this person's experience with women with autism, so yeah, I'm a bit like, yeah, I don't know. And then the atypical one, the fact that they've left that in, but it's not in this one anymore, if it ever was, I found that kind of interesting. But I will say, I did go through the whole androgynous thing. I don't ever feel particularly feminine. When I was really little, I kind of wanted to be a boy. As I got older, that kind of stuck around, but it was more of a jealousy kind of thing in the sense of not being as strong as I wanted to be, because I was into a lot of boyish stuff, but it's kind of hard when you're a small female. But you kind of just have to deal with it, you know, like, so, okay, so my body is no good for martial arts, but I do kind of like dancing. It's just can't find a fucking good class. Probably have to be one of the more boyish ones like hip-hop anyway, but I don't like hip-hop music that much, and it's all the way in the fucking city. Anyway, that's another side note. Let's get back to the actual list. Usually a little more expressive in face and gesture than male counterparts. I don't think I have anything to say about this because I don't see myself a lot in the mirror. I don't see how I'm talking to other people normally. What I do on the camera, I don't feel like is an accurate snapshot of what I'm like in real life, and then I don't get out enough, so I don't know. But I think, like, I mean, you can tell my face does make expressions, and I don't have to try too hard. I will say when I'm taking photos, I feel awkward about smiling because I never know how to smile properly. Like, it feels really artificial when someone's like, say cheese, and like, cheese! But you're trying to make a nice smile, and it's like, if you kind of smile with your eyes, it looks more genuine, but I'm like, And then fuck, modeling photos as well. It's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do with my face? I don't even know. But this is all unnatural situations. And fuck, if you have to wear lipstick is fucking weird. It makes me feel really odd. And it's like, because it's sort of, when it sort of sets and it's kind of tightened and it's like, what is my mouth even doing anymore? I can never smile on command or for a selfie. Yeah, so the way I used to get around that, especially during Rainbow Death Ray, because Rainbow Death Ray, I had the real bubbly persona along with the like raw kind of vocals and lyrics. So anytime, well, after I get off stage and I had that adrenaline high, I would run around with our unicorn mascot and take pictures with people and just make this face like, because if you obviously that's meant to be a silly face, so you can't fuck it up, because if anyone goes like, that looks fucking weird, you're like, I meant that. So you just take every photo going, and then, you know, you always look like an idiot, but you meant it, so you don't feel like an idiot. Does that make sense? So that used to be my way of getting around it. These days, though, I don't like that bubbly persona because I feel like that kind of died with my last depression. I constantly feel like I'm killing old versions of me, but hey, what can you do? That's growth. If you like KFC, is that a sign for Asperger's too? I don't like KFC. Japanese KFC was okay, but Australian KFC, the last time I had it was so greasy and I couldn't finish it. Even with a friend, it's just like, yeah, nah. KFC isn't really a big deal here, at least not in Sydney as far as I know. Anyway, so expressive in face and gesture. I don't fucking know. Next one, may not have a strong sense of identity, can be very chameleon-like, especially before diagnosis. I will say I don't really have a good sense of identity. I spent a lot of time thinking about it. I remember in high school, someone saying that teenagers are always asking, like, who am I? And I was like, oh, am I supposed to be asking that? And of course, they put the fucking idea in my head. And then I'm like, who am I? Going through that teenage angst. And then growing up, maturing. Trying to mature, I kind of just feel like, fuck it, well, who cares about identity? The closest thing I have to an identity is my imaginary split personality, and that's about it. If that, like, when that went away through that depression, actually a bit before the depression, and then until very recently, didn't have a whole lot of that. Until then, like, I was just like, well, what am I doing in life? I don't even know what I like. Like, supposedly I'm a musician who likes to dress up goth, but I don't even feel connected to that. Now that I've got some of the Destroyer kind of stuff, I'm actually finding it easier to do things and, just taking that as inspiration. That's the closest thing I have to any sense of identity. Otherwise, I'm just floating and I don't know what to do with myself, and I just do whatever I was already doing. So there's that. Chameleon-like, I don't know about chameleon-like. I mean, I guess when I was working in retail, you have to put on the retail face, but I think that's everyone and not just people with Asperger's, autism, whatever. In some situations, you have to act a certain way to get through it, so I don't see why that's on this list. I definitely have a retail, like, it's been a while. Officeworks was the last retail job I had. It's like, hi, how can I help you? And all this kind of stuff. I don't think I even sounded like that. It's been so fucking long. I think retail me is well and truly dead. I don't know if I can do it anymore. But yeah, processing people's fucking credit cards. It says insert card. Why are you swiping? That's my internal voice, while my external voice is like, oh, here, let me help you with that kind of thing. Anyway, I think we all have chameleon-like attributes when we're in certain social situations. I think, Chris? Oh shit, do you call, nervous neuron, okay. Yeah, no, that book, The People We Are, okay, so, who's it? It's by Rita someone. If you guys look up a book called The People We Are, I don't have my copy, my friend's got my copy, but it's this interesting book about how we can become different people in certain situations, and it can affect our memory and how memories affect personality. It's like this huge, it's really interesting, and I feel like because I was in the retail situation, my brain was in retail mode, and my behavior is influenced by being in that particular mode. So, I think we all do this chameleon thing every now and then. Certain situations just call for you to behave in certain ways. So yeah, I feel like this one's not very relevant. They talk about women with autism masking, and when I think about that, I'm like, I don't think what I'm doing is masking. Blah blah, next one. Enjoys reading and films as a retreat, often sci-fi, fantasy, children's, can have favorites which are a refuge. This was definitely true of me a while ago. I used to read a lot. I've got the whole Animorphs series, and I've read that. I think when I finally finished my collection, I went through and read the entire thing, which is amazing to read now because they talk about dial-up internet and stuff like that, and that was good fun. Used to watch a lot of films, used to be into those kinds of escape things. I think the chameleon, SP? What's SP? Is the fake face to cover the fact that you find it hard to pose a smile rather than playing a role. The kind of thing? Is that more like a chameleon thing to cover up? Oh, spelling. Oh, okay. Yeah, I suppose. But, a lot of people are socially awkward. We all find different ways to cope. Yeah, okay. I guess that could be a thing, but I feel like most of the time, it's more like just playing a role, just doing what I need to in that particular situation, and I don't see anything wrong with it. I think to some extent it's actually healthy to change your behavior to suit the situation. Like, I find it a little bit odd that that's on this list. But yeah, no, the reading and films thing, I definitely used to do that a lot, but at some point I think when the 2016 was a shit show of a year all around the world. So, No one knows can't do it, or take things literally but say it was on purpose, like traditional symptom is missed. Huh? I'm a bit confused about how that's worded, sorry. Yeah, and okay, 2016. Get my head back to 2016. Yeah, 2016 was a shit show like all around the world. I mean, did we have Tony Abbott still fucking up stuff in Australia? And then Brexit and Trump, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I thought so. Yeah. So I think in 2016 is when I started watching more non-fiction political stuff. Although before that, I was watching a lot of like disaster documentary type stuff. But I did used to watch a lot of film and read, but I don't feel like that's really relevant either. I did read some children's books because sometimes they're a little bit easier than adult books, and sometimes adult books involve like too much romance shit, and you're just like, get back to the story. Yeah, so I feel like that is just, I mean, a lot of people with social anxiety will tend towards fiction anyway. I don't see why that's a female Asperger syndrome trait. Next one, uses control as a stress management technique. Rules, discipline, rigid in certain habits will contradict her seeming unconventionality. So I do have a tendency to like having rules as a sort of a guide. You prefer sci-fi? Yeah, I like sci-fi over fantasy, I think. I mean, I like dragons, but they're never depicted. They're almost never depicted in a way that I can tolerate. I have my own views about what dragons should be. So, yeah. But yeah, no, the rules, discipline, rigid in certain habits. Well, mainly the rules and discipline thing. I sort of gravitate towards rules and stuff. But it's not a stress management technique. I'm not gravitating towards rules because I'm stressed about anything. It's just like, I think how I was brought up, maybe. I mean, I come from a conservative Catholic family, went to a Catholic school for 13 years, just sort of used to that environment. Also, like, I'm half Japanese, and I don't know if some of Japanese culture has rubbed off on me subconsciously, but Japan is a very rigid society. So, yeah, maybe I'm just prone to be more of a rule follower. But at the same time, I will also break a lot of rules. Like, when I first started bonsai, and, we were learning about root over rock style, and, I technically fulfilled all the requirements of the root over rock form, but the tree that I chose and the way I executed it, my teacher was like, who's now my employer, he was like, you always find a way to make this stuff really weird. Like, technically it fits the rules, but it's not normal for bonsai. So I'll find ways to like wiggle around rules, especially in those creative contexts. Yeah, so it's like I'll follow rules a lot, but also kind of break them in unexpected ways, maybe. So there's that, and it's an odd contradiction. I do remember a long time ago, like, when you set the table for dinner, and like, if you have more than one set of knives and forks and they're meant to go in a specific way, I was always frustrated that no one ever told me what those kinds of things were, and I was always like, I wish there were more people would explain more of the rules about socialization and how life actually works. I do remember having those kinds of thoughts, but then you figure it out and it's not that bad. Although I was probably a bit slower to get some of that. So I guess like the social, not understanding social rules for a long time, or like, might kind of count, but I don't know, it might just be the way I think, maybe my own little randomness. Because yeah, I finally got the hang of being social when I got my first Macca's job combined with doing YouTube. Actually, YouTube was after Macca's, and then just had practice, and now I can talk. That's exactly what it is, following the rule, the written logic, but not what's normal. Yeah. So, the rules thing, I think the thing that puts me off here is as a stress management technique. I don't follow rules for stress reasons. It's just that I feel like rules are there for a reason, and within reason you should follow them. Or, they just give you a guide on how to do things in some way. I don't know. And I, like, when you're a kid and they tell you, like, you shouldn't drink too much alcohol because all these things will happen. You shouldn't sleep around. You shouldn't take drugs because of all these reasons. Okay, so I still don't drink alcohol, don't do any kinds of drugs apart from what I'm prescribed, or if you count sugar and caffeine, I guess those, and then like Panadol, like, you know, I don't do any illegal drugs. I don't sleep around. What else do they usually put on those lists? I feel like there was one more, but I've forgotten. But like, you know, those kinds of things. I don't even have any fucking piercings or tattoos. Like, if you ignored all the weird stuff that I do, I'd probably seem like a conventional, almost Catholic, apart from the not believing in God and not going to church kind of stuff. Even though I'm an atheist, like, you know, there's a lot of rules that I kind of, like, they're not really rules, but I kind of follow them anyways, like guidelines. I've just never felt, well, I have other reasons, but that's a whole other video. I have an obsession with staying in control, so yeah, no drinking. But also some of those things are bad for your voice, and now that I am a vocalist, I'm kind of like, I need to stay healthy to make sure my voice lasts long and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I always wear earplugs at gigs. Once I discovered them, holy crap. Like, you know, I've been to some gigs where it was so loud. You're live. Okay, it just did that reconnecting thing. That's really annoying. Why does that? It's been happening every fucking stream now. How much battery I got? 38. That should be fine. I don't fucking know why it does that. Anyway. Wow, we've been going for a long time today. We're only on the first column of this stuff. What was I saying? I need to stay healthy for singing and so on. And oh yeah, one, like, you know, early on when I first started going to gigs, I didn't know about earplugs. So you know, I was always like, the sound's really shit. But then one gig where it was just too loud, I actually put my fingers over my ears, like, you know, press that. My fingers over my ears, like, you know, press that bit over it. So I don't put my actual finger in my ear, I just press that flappy bit down. And when I did that, suddenly, like, I could actually hear what was going on, because instead of everything just distorting, it blocks out some of that distorted stuff, like the high cymbals, over the top kind of stuff, and you can actually hear what's going on. And since then, I was just like, gotta find me some earplugs. And now I keep earplugs on me all the time. Yeah, you've got to be so careful about your hearing, because once it's damaged, there's not really anything you can do about it. Within the first, you know, if it's just a one-off, you can recover a bit of hearing, but if it's proper, like, hearing damage, it doesn't come back, unfortunately. So, yeah, you got to protect your hearing. But how did I get onto that tangent? Does that count as a rule if I'm, like, looking after my health in that kind of way? Health rules, I guess. Yeah, I just have no desire to go out drinking and smoking. Smoking's the other one. I don't smoke because that one's really bad for your voice and it stinks. And I don't know, anytime I walk past a smoker, I just sort of like try and hold my breath as best I can because I don't like the smell of it. And I also don't like the idea that I might be breathing it in. It's hard when I've got friends who smoke though, because I'm in heavy metal. So I usually try to stand upwind so that the smoke blows away from me. Anyway, that's if we go outside. I'll try and avoid going outside. Anyway. What? Control as a stress management technique. I don't know. Oh, and the last one in the appearance personal habits column. Usually happiest at home or in other controlled environments. Here we are at home, alone, talking to YouTube. Yes, probably this is where I want to be. So I guess that one kind of applies. But then, you know, what's wrong with being at home? Especially when I'm lucky to live in a place that it doesn't feel too cramped. I've got my own space. You know, if you were a bit more cramped, I can see why you might want to go out more, but I'm pretty comfortable, so hey. Shit, we're not going to get through this, but I'll get through as much as I can, and then my battery's probably going to start complaining, so I might have to... Oh, there's a plug there. Do those plugs work? Maybe I could plug in there and we could just change the angle slightly so that I can charge while I'm, you know, live streaming. Because I don't think today's carer will get here for a while. We can make this a long one, especially because I warmed up my voice and I've got my water. All right, we'll see how much of this list we can get through. So the next list on female Asperger syndrome traits is intellectual / giftedness / education / vocation. So, may have been diagnosed as autistic or Asperger's when young, or may have been thought of as gifted, shy, sensitive, etc. May also have had obvious or severe learning deficits. Okay. So out of these things, I was put in the gifted and talented programs, and I was also seen as quite shy. I was so shy in school. I could not talk like this. But yeah, fucking gifted and talented programs, such a fucking waste of time. They had no idea what to do with me. But yeah, no, I did get put in those programs. What, the first maybe in year 5 was when they started pulling me out at recess and lunch to do extra stuff with the teachers, doing the e-cig thing, discovered it a few years ago. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how e-cigarettes go in terms of health research long term. It's so new that I don't think they know enough about what different things do, what the impacts of e-cigarettes are. But I think it also depends what you actually put in your e-cigarette. I don't know, not something I've been interested enough to research. But yeah, no, so year 5, definitely I remember. I don't know if, did I do anything before that? I think year 5, so what year was that? 2000, no, shit. This would have been 1999 maybe, and I had the scary teacher who looked like Cruella de Vil with that little white strip in her hair. What was her name? I don't remember, but she used to take me and another girl out of like the main class, like, you know, we'd do our own things off to the side, and sometimes at recess and lunch they'd get us to do extra stuff. But then after a while it was only me, and it was like, well, she's trying to get me to do algebra, but didn't explain what algebra was. So it's like a plus b equals what? And I had no idea that the a and the b were meant to represent actual numbers. So of course I had no fucking idea what she was trying to get me to do. And then in year 7, when you finally learn algebra, I was like, oh, that's what it was. Why couldn't you explain it to me? Like, you're running a gifted and talented program. Okay, but this is before we had good internet. How am I supposed to know what the fuck you're talking about? So, you know, they do stuff like that and just assume I understood things. You know, it's like going from one extreme to another. So, fuck your gifted and talented program. And then in year 6, I did the maths Olympiad thing. My teacher complained to my parents because I wasn't doing it. And then my parents came to me and were like, why didn't you tell us about this thing? And I was like, I don't know, we've got Mikey, kind of thought you wouldn't drive me to school early, kind of thing. I didn't say it like that. I would have said it in a really shy bit, like, I thought that. I would have spoken like that by then. I was not shy in kindy or year 1, I think, but then I got really shy. Yeah, and couldn't tell my parents when there was like a maths thing that my teacher wanted me to go to. So we'd go into school early and do that. And so I started later than the other guys, but I still ended up getting like the fucking trophy for the highest score, because I was good at maths and stuff. So I was in that. And then there was a few times, I think I've talked previously about high school gifted and talented bullshit programs. I wanted to do robotics, and they just didn't understand what I was into, and they didn't understand how to explain how to do different things. Like, yes, maybe I was good at maths, but if you don't explain to me the concept, how the fuck am I supposed to automatically know what all these symbols mean? Like, you know, they just assume that because you're good at something that you automatically already know it. No, background information doesn't just appear in your head. Someone needs to teach it to you. Fucking... Anyway, that's my rant about the fucking gifted and talented programs. They're not worth it. If you didn't get pulled in for one, doesn't matter. Chances are you probably worked harder than me, and you've probably got a better job than me, and your life is going better than me. So who gives a shit about gifted and talented programs? Anyway, that was a little rant, because, you know, thinking about the past and the way people have failed me. Anyway, next one, offered musical artistic. Okay, yes, I'm a musician and an artist, but let's put a caveat. My brain is best at maths and science type things, but my impulse is to go towards music and art, but I'm not natural at music and art. So it's a struggle for me to get them to work. So when you say that I'm musical and artistic, it's from making myself do it and not because I'm natural at it, at least in my opinion. So yeah, that's a little caveat on that. Next one, may have a savant skill or strong talents. Not really. I mean, yes, I was good at maths, but you know, I wasn't, you know, like you see those child prodigy type things. I wasn't like that. You know, even if my brain was capable of it, I would never have had enough interest to get that deep into it. And then when I went to uni and you see the people who are really into this shit, and you're like, so that was not me. And then I can't think of any other particular skills I had. I learn quickly certain things that I want to learn, and then drop it when it gets too advanced, because at that point it's super boring. Next one, may have a strong interest in computers. Yes. Games in the past, but mainly only Pokemon. And these days, not so much. Science, yes. Graphic design, sort of, but only for aspects that I can use it for. Inventing, not really. Things of technological, yes. And visual nature, not really. More verbal thinkers may gravitate to writing. Yeah, these days, when I was younger, I didn't write very much, but then I got to uni and it turns out I'm good at writing. It's just that the way school's set up, or at least back then, the way they tested it was really bad, and they'd write really confusing questions that you had to interpret a certain way to be able to understand, and I was constantly misunderstanding the question. Fucking high school English. But then I get to uni and the first essay I write gets a distinction, and I'm like, is this American system where it's like A, B, C, D? No, the D means distinction. Anyway, there's a lot of stuff about the educational system that gets me riled up, doesn't it? Whoopsie daisies. Anyway, writing, languages, only Japanese and only a little bit. Cultural studies. I mean, I'm interested in subcultures. Does that count? Actual, like, wider cultures, not so much. Although, I suppose it depends. There's a lot of things changing even in Western culture that are kind of interesting. And then psychology, but yeah, okay, so I'm interested in psychology, but mainly because I'm a nut. And so my original interest in psychology was just to try and figure myself out. It's not about other people's psychology. Although, social psychology, once I found that actually is interesting because people are fucking weird and they don't know it. Like, when you get people together in a group and social psychology things kick in, holy fuck, it's insane. People are just like, the things that you could manipulate people to do just because of the group dynamic, you're like, oh my god. And we had a really good lecturer for that first semester of psychology when I was at uni the first time. What was her name? Something starting with a Z. She was really funny. And yeah, anyway, okay, so yeah, the strong interest in computers, games, science, graphic design, inventing, things of a technological and visual nature. More verbal thinkers may gravitate to writing, languages, cultural studies, psychology. So yeah, I'm interested in a bit of that stuff. I think that's maybe because I'm a bit of a tomboy at heart, even if I've got long hair now and don't look it so much. It's funny how hair can change so much of the perception. Like when I started coloring my hair instead of just cutting it all off, yeah, it does kind of make you look girlier. Just because, like, guys don't tend to do a lot with their hair, I suppose, apart from, like, heavy metal guys who just grow it out, and then occasionally do a man bun or something. Actually, that's not heavy metal, but there are guys who grow it out long and then tie it up, but they often those guys who grow their hair out long will also have a beard, so it's kind of like, well, they still look masculine, and, you know, I'm a chick. It would be such a tragedy if I could grow a beard, because I'm lazy and I would never shave it, so I would be like this hairy, homeless-looking person. You know, I'm not good with that kind of shit. Anyway, off topic. May be a self-taught reader, being hyperlexic as a child, and will possess a wide variety of other self-taught skills as well. I used to have a mohawk and dye my hair. Ah, awesome. Yeah, I've never done the mohawk thing, but I just don't think I'd have the energy to do that, you know, do what you need to get it to spike up. Okay, so I'm not self-taught. Mum helped me learn to read, which led to some interesting things because she's Japanese, right? So I have this memory of her trying to teach me to read the word Friday, but I think she must have pronounced it Flyday, and then, but like, you know, with the Japanese, like, the mix between R and L sound, and then me interpreting it as a proper L sound, I would have said actual Flyday, and I remember her saying, no, it's not Friday, it's Friday! And I so, you know, I think, you know, I mean, obviously school taught me to read as well, but I didn't teach myself to read. Wow, it's getting dark. I'm starting to have trouble seeing this. Hyperlexic, no, if I'm understanding what that word even means. And will possess a wide variety of other self-taught skills as well. So actually, I do have a lot of self-taught skills if you count that I learnt them on the internet or YouTube or whatever. Although some things, like I got my initial start on Photoshop at my Kodak job, but then, you know, played around with it since then. I don't know, if you watch a tutorial, does that count as self-taught, or do they mean that you sat down with the software and just played with it until you figured it out yourself? That's what I'm not sure about there. so like nowadays if I want to learn something, I can figure out where to learn it from generally, but I do find it easier if I'm at a class and have deadlines and specific things like the structure. So I don't know that this one applies. May be highly educated but will have had to struggle with social aspects of college, may have one or many partial degrees. Oh shit. Hyperlexic means you start to read early, I think. Yeah, I think it's either that or like you have heaps more vocabulary and so on. But yeah, that sounds about right. But yeah, this one, highly educated. Okay, I have a master's degree. Social aspects of college. So I'm guessing they mean like American version of uni. The first few degrees. So I tried a regular sort of mixed arts and science degree at Sydney Uni. Didn't really make any friends. Yeah, I don't think I made any friends there. Then I went to COFA for a semester the next year. There's only one person I'm still in contact with there. And then I went to music school, and that's where I started meeting more people. I mean, you have to work with people because you end up in these little bands, but I'm not particularly close to anyone from AIM, I don't think. And I actually finished that degree in the end. Then after that, I briefly tried the mechatronic engineering and medical science degree at Sydney Uni again, but I pulled out before census date. Oh, I hope you're sneezing. Oh, sweetie. Maybe I'll just turn on this light because it's getting hard to see stuff. Oh, didn't really make much difference, did it, Hopi? Yeah, and then that same year I went back to AIM and started doing the audio degree. So the mechatronic engineering medical science, no friends. This is so bad it fits everybody. Yeah, I think it's pretty dodgy, but it's kind of amusing. There's some things that won't fit people though. But yeah, then AIM audio, I think like once I got older and got used to the whole uni thing, like, when you come straight out of school, you still feel like, there's a distance between you and the teachers. Towards the end of school, you do sort of get a bit more friendly with the teachers, but they're still on a different hierarchy level. And then when you first go to uni, you still have that feeling. But at some point, you start realizing that these are just like, they could be just like your mate or whatever, getting a job at the uni. And you start just thinking, oh, they're just like other people like me. And so I think with AIM audio, like, I talked to the teachers a lot more. I was able to talk to other students a lot more because I just didn't give a shit anymore. And so I made more contacts there. I probably made more contacts in the metal music scene though. Yeah, then there was the graphic design course that I did about half of, which was online, and then back at UNSW for fucking COFA again, and then I finished that degree. But yeah, I've got a bunch of partial degrees. We've tried too many different degrees. I might as well just like do the fucking PhD and become a professional student that way. Anyway, yeah, I don't know. I just never really had a need to make a whole lot of friends. I mean, I was lonelier when I was younger. Kind of cured that about 4 years ago. Since about 4 years ago, I've not felt any kind of loneliness really. I'm quite happy with my online life. I don't need anything in person to stereotype. It feels like it fits everyone because you're probably not friends with people who are the opposite. Yeah, you couldn't diagnose anyone with stereotypes. Yeah. And this is all based on one person's experience with autistic women anyway. Next one, can be very passionate about a course of study or job and then change direction or go completely cold on it very quickly. Holy shit, that one's me. I get super interested in things for a short amount of time, whether it's study or a job or just like a hobby, and then all of a sudden we'll completely lose interest. That one's me. Yeah, ouch. Oh shit. Will often have trouble holding onto a job and may find employment daunting. That's only true of me now and only because of, my experience with depression. As I was saying before, I was continuously employed from 2007 to 2016. So I'd only leave a job when I was sure that I had another one lined up. And then at times I had like little extra jobs. So like when I worked the election, that was a one-off. When I was doing the Santa photography, that was on top of my other job. Yeah. So I never had a problem with keeping the job back then, but after this depression, it's been harder for me. And I think that's a depression thing, not an autism thing. Highly intelligent, yet sometimes can be slow to comprehend due to sensory and cognitive processing issues. Okay, so I'm considered fairly intelligent by most people that I've interacted with. You occasionally get people who disagree, but in terms of academics, I do score highly. And then my psychiatrist was, you know, I guess a bit surprised by, you know, the kind of person I was, talking me up. When it comes, like, I don't have any like slow because of sensory and cognitive processing issues, but if it's something like common sense type stuff, sometimes I can misinterpret that and be a little bit like off with the pixies, which reminds me of this book of mathematician anecdotes. You know, you can get absorbed in a thought and you can't really figure out normal life. So there's one time, I've talked about it before, where my parents told me to watch the barbecue, and that's exactly what I did while everything was burning, because they hadn't given me instructions on what to do if things were burning. Whether I move things off the thing or leave it there and turn down the temperature. I don't know what I was thinking, but I was just like, I opened it and I'm like, there's a lot of smoke, but they didn't say what to do, so I'll just... And now, like, what if my brother wants me to put, if Dave wants me to put lasagna on with cheese and all that, he gives me very detailed instructions about how he wants it done, because if you don't, I'll make it up and it could be a disaster. But I don't think that's the same as what they're talking about here. That's just me being silly. And it's nothing to do with sensory and cognitive processing. It's just that I don't give a shit about barbecues, so of course I don't know what to do. And it's a lot easier to just do nothing if no one has told you otherwise. So maybe that's a laziness thing. Next one. Will not do well with verbal instruction, needs to write down or draw a diagram. I don't know, I think it's kind of mixed. It depends on the situation. What are you trying to tell me to do? And then sometimes, like, not a diagram, but maybe if it's a lot of instructions, dot points would be nice. I think that's just, like, how people's brains work, though. Yeah, this list, oh my god. We'll have obsessions, but they are not as unusual as her male counterparts, less likely to be a train spotter. I'm fucking sick of trains, oh my god. And you know, like there's this video where they changed the doors on the Tangara, so now instead of the old Tangara doors, they've got the fucking Millennium Train-ish doors. That's a different point about having less common sense and taking instructions literally. Surprised it hasn't come up yet. Well, I am taking a while to get through it. Actually, yeah, they didn't say anything about taking things literally. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I will take things literally. But I think it depends on the situation. Yeah. Anyway, so obsessions. What are my obsessions? I don't know. I was into more boyish stuff when I was younger, probably. So what, dinosaurs? I used to know a lot of names of dinosaurs and spend time trying to work out how they might be pronounced. This is before the internet was a big thing, so I had to make it all up myself. But you know, the different eras and whatever, different kinds of dinosaurs. I think one dinosaur, the name got changed since then. I used to trace over them a lot, draw dinosaurs. I was pretty into them. At some point, though, I think I probably switched to dragons. Robots. I was into robotics for quite a while. I used to draw a lot of robots. Used to, like, research stuff about artificial intelligence and, you know, Aibo. I really wanted an Aibo back then. Aibo are back, but only in Japan. And the battery life hasn't improved. How can we go 10 fucking years and not get any better battery life out of these things? But hey, whatever. It is what it is, and we're not going to spend $3,000 on a fucking robot dog when we've got a real dog. Calm down, past me. I don't know what. You know, I get obsessed with all kinds of little things, but only for short periods of time. So, like I was saying, the vampire obsession. And, yeah, real vampires. I do wonder what's happened to some of those people, but I wonder if I can find their usernames in that stuff that my Facebook somehow has saved. I mean, I should probably download all that stuff just in case it disappears again. But I wonder if it has usernames, and maybe I could, like, stalk these people and find out what's happened to them and, you know, maybe follow up. That would be interesting. But it's hard because people change their names on YouTube and wherever else. So, I don't know. Anyway, so that's intellectual, giftedness, education, vocation. Let's move on to emotional, physical. How much battery do I have? Do I need to grab my charger? Maybe I should just grab my charger There's a PowerPoint here, so just give me a moment. I'm going to run off and grab that, and so that we don't have to, yeah, let's do that, because I think I've got, what time is it? 3:30. Oh, what time will they get home? She could be quite late. Okay, let's do it. I'll be right back. Whee! Alright, so I got my charger, I got my good cable, because the cable that comes with the fucking Samsung thing, I even got a replacement cable and they're just shit. It's this ending bit, what is this, a Belkin? It came with my, I got this massive brick charger thing, or like massive in terms of capacity. It's even got like a little carabiner on it. It's really like heavy duty kind of stuff, and it came with this one, and this actually fits in. I think it's slightly bigger, the metal bit is slightly bigger than the Samsung one, and so it actually fits in there more snugly, and then you actually get a decent connection and you don't have to fight your computer to get the data off your damn phone. But anyway, I'm just gonna plug this in. Which one's the good one? Is it this one? I think that's a good one. Okay, let me just get close enough because it's a really short cable. Unfortunately. I'm gonna plug it in. Oh my god, I'm not close enough. Bloody hell. That's the one problem with it, is it's a fucking short cable. But I might have to like make this lower. Sorry guys, I'm just plugging it in. There we go. And then I can come back up a bit. Yeah, and we are charging. All right. I'm just going to grab my content and my list and my water, and we'll get back into the next column. Because I am getting a little bit cold. Ugh. And this jumper, because it's got those funny sleeve things, it's not the best one to wear a hun ten over, but hey, whatever. It's got the tiny hood. Alright. A little bit squashed in this spot, but we'll do our best. So the next part on the list is emotional, physical. So emotionally immature and emotionally sensitive. I'm not sure I even know what that one means, I gotta be honest. Let's just tighten that bit there. Emotionally immature and emotionally sensitive. I mean, like, I guess I tried the dating thing later than other people, but I think that's more to do with me just not giving a crap. And that's the most I can think of. I mean, I learned a lot from that experience, mostly about things to avoid because people are shit. But, and then also that I'm not interested in people. Yeah, I don't know, dumb way to have to confirm all that when I already knew it, but I don't know what this one means. Okay, next one. Anxiety and fear are predominant emotions. No. Oh well, I guess I'm risk averse, if that counts as fear. Also, when I've seen psychologists and done those fucking, those questionnaires I was talking about like 2 hours ago maybe, those questionnaires that are really hard to answer, I always score slightly high for anxiety, and I'm not sure if that's because I'm always a little bit anxious, a bit like Hopi is. Thanks for that butthole showing me, Hopi. Hopi, come here. You can show everyone on camera your butthole if you really want to. You're acting like a cat. Anyway, oh my god. No, so I don't know if I score high for anxiety on those psychological questionnaires because I'm always a little bit anxious, or because of the way they've worded the questions and I'm constantly interpreting things maybe the wrong way. Because they are so subjective, and it's like, how do I answer these things? So, yeah, in terms of anxiety and fear, that's the closest stuff I can think of. More open to talking about feelings and emotional issues than males with is that Asperger syndrome they mean? I think that females in general are more open to talking about feelings and emotional issues, especially in current Western culture. So if women with Asperger's are better at talking about emotions, that's just like being female and not necessarily autistic. Hello! What? Come in. Come and say hello to everyone. You are so disobedient. Asperger syndrome. Okay, cool. So that is what that means. Hope you're distracting, You are. You gonna get a toy? You can get a toy. I'm still gonna be talking to the camera though. Stop with your head tilting. Oh my god. The next one. Where was I up to? Oh, the feelings and emotional issues versus males. Yeah, I think that's just regular male-female stuff. Because there are, on average, certain differences between males and females. There will always be people who break the mold, but on average, biology, evolution plays a role, and then there's some cultural stuff too. So I don't think that's an Asperger syndrome thing. Strong sensory issues. Sounds, sights, smells, touch, and prone to overload. Less likely to have taste, food, texture issues as males. You're distracting, Hopi. So sensory issues, I don't really have. If I'm really tired, I might be sensitive to usually sounds, not so much light. Although, you know, I go through moods where I don't want to be around light things, but no, sound I'm more likely to be sensitive to. Maybe it's because my eyesight's shit though. But that's just mainly when I'm tired. Smells, well, I don't like the smell of cigarettes, but that feels like preference. Touch, well, if you count like certain fabrics, but that also feels like preference. And then if shit fabric is just shit fabric, then probably everyone hates it. Prone to overload, not from anything sensory. And then this taste food thing, okay? I am picky about taste and texture. I mean, I'm better than I used to be, but there are certain foods that I just don't want to have to eat because I just don't like them. I don't know that that's sensory. And then certain textures of food, like what? I think it's like liver. I think for women, because of vitamin D or something, like, is it vitamin D? I don't know, but chicken liver or something's supposed to be good for you and mum likes it, but I fucking hate the texture, so I can't eat it. I have a good texture thing. Food. Oh, you have a food texture thing. Okay. It's with the typos, sometimes it gets a bit confusing. Hopi, come here. Oh my god, come here. Show me. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. This dog wants attention. Are you getting cold? I think I'll put your jumper on a bit later, huh? Yeah. Okay, so, yeah, no, certain textures of food I'll really hate. And then with, like, texture and taste combined, if I don't like the food, my appetite would just die. So that's a thing, and it's interesting that they say that's more of a male Asperger's thing than a female Asperger's. So I think that's just my preference, though. Next one. Moody and prone to bouts of depression. Well, that's me, but, you know. May have been diagnosed as bipolar or manic depressive, common comorbids of autism, AS, while AS diagnosis was missed. No, I've only been diagnosed with depression. Occasionally people will, like the psychiatrists, psychologists, occasionally they will ask me bipolar related questions, but even though I can get intensely into different projects from now and then, it's never to the extent that I would understand it as a manic episode. I think maybe to some outsiders, occasionally when I look bubbly or something, they might interpret that as like manic, but it's never actually that kind of stuff. I never take things too far in that sense, so I don't think bipolar fits. I've never been diagnosed as such, but they do kind of wonder about it sometimes. They also wondered about OCD though, because I'm kind of an obsessive person, but it's not enough that I would count as a disordered kind of thing. You know, it has to be a disorder for you to be diagnosed with a lot of this shit. You know, no, my obsessiveness doesn't really affect my life that badly. I've probably given, oh my god, the lighting's so bad. Probably given several different prescriptions to treat symptoms, will be very sensitive to medications and anything else she puts in her body, so may have had adverse reactions. Okay, this one fits me. I tried a lot of different things for depression and the fucking side effects, I just couldn't deal with it. And I didn't want to go that route where you try and take extra, like more and more different things to try and control symptoms. I don't think that was going to work well for me. So yeah, I did try a lot of stuff. I did have a lot of adverse reactions. So no, that's a thing. Yeah, sensitive to medications. How about that? 9 out of 10 have mild to severe gastrointestinal difficulties, e.g. ulcers, acid reflux, IBS, etc. Oh, that's irritable bowel syndrome. Okay, that's interesting. I guess there is a connection between, like, there's that brain-gut connection that, you know, we're starting to understand a little bit more as time goes on. So that's kind of an interesting thing. In terms of me though, I think when I was depressed, I feel like my stomach, I had more problems with it. The last while, not really. And since I've been, I should really get some, since I've been on the Metamucil thing, I feel like my stomach problems have been a lot less. And I think it's probably just that I didn't have enough fiber in my diet. So actually I should go and have some Metamucil. But like, even without the Metamucil, if I forget that for a while, yeah, I feel like my stomach's been a lot better, I guess, since I recovered from depression. And then, long term, I don't remember having a lot of long term kinds of stomach issues, so I don't think this one applies to me. But it's an interesting one if autism's connected to stomach problems in some way. Or like, it's chicken and egg, which one comes first? Okay, so next one. Stims to soothe when sad or agitated, rocking, face rubbing, humming, finger flicking, leg bouncing, finger or foot tapping. Oh my god, have you ever been in an exam behind someone who does the leg tapping thing, and you're just like in the corner of your eye, and all you can see is this ticka 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 ticka. Fuck those people, I hope you. Bloody hell. Did I frighten you with that? Yeah, okay, so stimming. I can kind of understand the rocking thing, because like I grew up around disabled people, okay, so I have seen the rocking thing, and so on occasion I was like, maybe I'll try that, and it is kind of nice sometimes. Maybe though, I'm also a heavy metal kid, so maybe that's just like a kind of natural thing. But no, like I can kind of see why that's kind of relaxing sometimes, but I don't really do it that often unless I'm like, maybe I should try this. It's not something I do naturally. I think that's just from having grown up around those kinds of kids. Anything else in there? Oh, and this is when sad or agitated. Yeah, I don't think I do any of that stuff. Occasionally leg bouncing, but usually that's when I'm cold and I'm trying to warm up. Oh, dancing and bouncing. Oh no, I'm looking at the wrong one. Okay, so the next one is similarly physical when happy. Hand flapping, clapping, singing, jumping, running around, dancing, bouncing. So sometimes when I'm more cheerful, I mean, I don't get as cheerful as I used to. I don't get as excited as I used to, but I can be a little bit over the top with my reactions to stuff, especially with Rainbow Death Ray. I would sort of put on that more bouncy persona. So, but is that natural to me? I don't know. I guess I can get a bit excitable, but I don't think it counts. I think that's just me being excited. What was that? Problem is, if I'm doing it, I'm not usually aware of it, so I have to rely on other people to tell me if I'm doing it or not. Okay, that's an interesting thing. Yeah, no, I'm usually aware of when I'm doing these kinds of things. I'm much more likely to like absent-mindedly play with my hair, for example, but then if I'm filming, I can see myself doing it, and I'm like, oh, I'm doing the thing again. Oh well. Which, I think it's just because hair's distracting. Anyway, next one. Prone to temper or crying meltdowns, even in public, sometimes over seemingly small things due to sensory or emotional overload. No, I don't think this is me. When I was depressed, I might tear up more easily, even in public, and sometimes because I was that badly depressed, sometimes it was a little bit difficult to control, but that's just depression and not any kind of autism thing. And I wouldn't really call them meltdowns so much most of the time. But yeah, when I was depressed, small things might upset me. Like if I couldn't find anything in the cupboard to eat, I might get a little bit emotional about that. But that's depression. Depression does fuck with the way you think. With the way that I compartmentalize emotions, sometimes depression feels like another version of me. Not in the same way as Destroyer stuff. But yeah, I noticed that I do think differently. I have access to more negative memories than normal. So yeah, but that's depression, not Asperger's. Next one, hates injustice and hates to be misunderstood. This can incite anger or rage. Yeah, I think does anyone like injustice? Does anyone like being misunderstood? So there's that side of things. And then also, like, yes, I hate injustice, but when it comes to things like, you hear about the social justice warrior kind of thing and whatever, right? I try and get more than one perspective. So even if something looks like injustice, I tend to wait a moment and just try and find out the rest of the facts. So I don't... What? Is it unfair that I'm talking to the camera and not you? You could get a toy and I could throw it for you even though I'm talking to everyone, you know? Go get the toy. Hopi. Where's the toy? Chip, chip. Yeah, Hopi. Go get it. He still responds to the guinea pig noise. Oh my god. We haven't had guinea pigs for years. But anyway. So with the injustice thing, yeah, I hate injustice. But I'm also aware that, you know, sometimes I might get information that's not the whole story, and I like to have the whole story before I start passing judgment, because otherwise you risk perpetuating other types of injustice by having a snap reaction. Hates injustice. Let's go worse with every paragraph. I know you're enjoying this. Hey, hello! What happened to the toy? What? Get the toy! You're very distracting, and I've just done your dog noises on the fucking... Oh. Hopi, where's the toy? Where's the toy? Let me just... Hello, now you are the center of attention. Yeah? What? Hopi, where's the toy? I don't have it, so you're gonna have to go and get the toy. Get the toy. My video. God, bloody hell. He's so demanding. Look, you've even been out today, so don't pretend you didn't get a walk from mum, okay? Go and get the toy. If you get the toy and bring it back to me, I can throw it for you while I'm reading the thing, okay? Hopi, where's the toy? Get the toy. Where is it? Oh, this way. Get the toy. He can come around the other way, but it'll take him longer. Where were we up to? Oh, the injustice and misunderstood. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, incite anger and rage. I suppose not everyone feels like that, but like you don't have to be autistic to feel rage and anger if someone misunderstands you or whatever. Prone to mutism when stressed or upset, especially after a meltdown. Less likely to stutter than male counterparts, but may have raspy voice, monotone at times when stressed or sad. Did you do the guinea pig sound that drove Hope crazy? Oh, I did it because he was already crazy, so it's like, why not? He still goes and looks for Putty sometimes if you say, like, where's Putty? He can't find the toy. He's actually looking for it now, though. Okay, so with this, like, when prone to mutism when stressed or upset, there have been a few times where I've been so upset that I didn't know, like I couldn't communicate anything. But I feel like that's just like the extreme of the emotion. I don't, like it's not because of a meltdown or anything. Yeah, sometimes when you're like really upset, it can be hard to sort of formulate words to explain stuff. And I find sometimes, especially when I was depressed, I found sometimes talking about whatever was wrong make me feel worse. Like if it's in person, because the person's right there. Like I could talk about it on YouTube, for example, and it would make me feel better, it would calm me down maybe, but if I talked about it to an actual person, I'd start feeling a lot worse. You have that problem too? It's just like when you're trying to share it and convey it to someone, I don't know, there's something about that that I would get more and more emotional trying to explain things to people. Sometimes this would happen when I was seeing like the doctor or the psychiatrist. I was trying to explain to them something, and then I just start crying, and I was like, I was not feeling sad before I started talking about this. It's only once I started talking, and then I don't feel like even talking, I was feeling, you have that problem too? I feel like even while I was talking, I didn't really feel sad, but all of a sudden my body would react in this way and I'd start crying and all this kind of stuff. It was just like weird. Yeah, and then there have been times when I was like pretty upset and didn't know what to say. Although one of those situations was while I was living with my ex and some bullshit was going on, and I knew that it didn't matter what I was going to say, my opinion wouldn't be taken into consideration. This wasn't just my ex's fault, it was also his mum. Yeah, that was a rough time in my life, and I'm glad it's over. Anyway, but yeah, I sort of worked out if I'm really upset and I can't communicate something, sometimes it's easier to just write it out. But yeah, I haven't needed to do that in a long time, I don't think. So that concludes emotional, physical kinds of stuff. Let's move on to social relationships. Words and actions are often misunderstood by others. I don't think I have that problem. I think occasionally, like, you know, you're trying to talk with friends and someone will take something the wrong way that you meant in a good way or meant as a joke, and someone will get offended by something. That kind of happens, but I think that's just normal. Like, communication, especially verbal communication, is far from perfect, and it's easy to stumble over your words and accidentally say the wrong thing, or, you know, get confused. Especially, like, you know, today, what was that word that we made up? Loment? You know, like maybe I actually did say loment and I meant to say something else, but you know, being tired and whatever, I didn't even know that I said that. So, you know, there's all kinds of things that can affect verbal communication. So, oh my God. I'm just sort of listening to hear if someone's home, but I don't think they should be. What time is it? It should be about 4. Yeah, it's 4 now. I'll be surprised. I'm sure it's that other carer today. Uh-oh. Mikey's home. I'm going to have to go. Sorry to cut it short. Fuck. Sorry, guys.